Our top story this hour, multiple fires started up in southern Utah this weekend. The Dry Wash fire near Sevier is up to 226 acres, reportedly human-caused. The Kolob fire, also human-caused, and is up to 601 acres. Much of the Beehive State is under a red flag warning today, and in the coming hours, we're going to see smoke from California wildfires move into the Wasatch Front.
Forecast calling for smoke to pick up as we head into tomorrow, simply because we'll pick up on more of a westerly flow, bringing in that smoke from Northern California.
KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says tomorrow air quality from Utah County northward could become unhealthy for sensitive groups, but the smoke is expected to clear out more as we work through the week. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, those wildfires continue to burn in California.
That part of California is having their hottest and driest start to the summer on record. So there's a reason that this is exploding so fast. And we have a lot of that. They're not alone with the dry and the hot. And that's why we've got those air quality alerts from the Cascades right down through the Rockies.
ABC News Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow right now is off 119. That's about 0.3%. We're at 40,470. Coming up, it looks like we'll be hot again today with some smoke in the air. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
That precious cool air inside your house shouldn't be seeping out through old drafty windows, but if it does, get stylish new windows and frames at factory direct pricing from Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Advanced Window Products has been building windows here in Salt Lake City for 38 years, but even if you don't need windows, they can give your interior a fresh new look with blinds, shades, and shutters from Graber. They offer custom crafted window treatments featuring the trendiest designs, premium materials, and quality without compromise. Advanced Windows offers start-to-finish service with shorter lead times so you get your custom blinds, shades, and shutters sooner. Call them for a free in-home consultation with their designers. It's a no-pressure experience, and if you need new windows, $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Or if you need window treatments, it's Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindowsusa.com.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention, like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See, we didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them.
With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise.
No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures.
It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
High five. Up top. Heck yeah!
Dave's company just got the first ever 5-year price lock guarantee from Comcast Business.
Yeah, 5 years!
It's 5 years of gig speed internet.
High five for gig speed.
5 years of advanced security.
Security win.
And 5 years of a great rate that won't change.
Our rate ain't changing.
All from the company with 99.9% network reliability.
There it is.
He hasn't given this many high fives since Deborah brought in her famous banana bread.
Woohoo!
Now he's got savings.
I'm so excited.
Yep. Dave's feeling it, but it's only for a limited time, so don't wait. Switch today and ask how to get the first ever 5-year price lock guarantee from Comcast Business. Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. Comcast Business.
And it's hurting, but I am not stopping. Woo!
Ends 8/21/24. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge for new customers on qualifying internet bundle, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
See, traffic and weather continues, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, we've got 6 miles of stop-and-go traffic southbound I-15 from 5th West and Bountiful all the way down to 600 north in Salt Lake, where only 2 left lanes of the freeway are open. A lot of people are taking Legacy Parkway as their alternate, but that's at a crawl as well. From Bountiful all the way to the I-215 interchange, and from there down to I-80. If you're eastbound I-80, you also have more than 3 miles of nearly stopped traffic after you pass the East Quarry exit all the way past East Canyon. That's due to a crash blocking the left lane and shoulder. Is the IRS harassing you? Are tax problems ruining your life? Let Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox help. Visit taxhelput.com. That's taxhelput.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be sunny with some patchy smoke from those wildfires and a high of about 96 in Salt Lake. Right now, it's 81 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Duajanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's Monday, and Dave has the day off, but thankfully we've got KSL at Night host Adam Gardner, also political insider, filling in today for Dave. Hi, Adam.
You know what? It's so great to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Debbie.
I've already loved our conversation pre-show. We've been out in the newsroom going back and forth on some of the big topics we're going to be discussing today, including how much money Kamala Harris has been able to raise in the last week. And then this new op-ed that's out by President Biden talking about putting term limits on justices of the Supreme Court. We're going to get into all that in just a few seconds. But first, I want you to introduce yourself to our family of listeners, Adam. Tell us why you're a political insider.
Well, that's because I don't have any real skills outside of politics. I told my wife that if I ever move outside of the state, I will not be employable at all because Utah politics is just where I live and breathe. I'm Utah born and bred. I'm from Layton. I went to Layton High School, met my wife up at Weber State University. And I have been interested in politics for a long time. When I was a kid, I was the chairman of the Teenage Republican as a 17-year-old. I was nominated by Orrin Hatch and Bob Bennett to be a Senate page out in Washington, D.C. when I was in high school.
That's awesome.
So I lived out there, and then I just really started volunteering on campaigns while I was in college. And that was where I got most of my experience, and I got hired onto the staff for Congressman Rob Bishop. I ran his campaign, and then I was an elected official from West Jordan and served in the Utah State Legislature for a little bit. And then I was a Salt Lake County elected official. And then I worked as Mitt Romney's state director for 3 years. And so now I'm off on my own, doing my own thing, have my own business, doing political consulting and lobbying, and it's been a really fun experience.
And a regular host of KSL at Night from 7 to 9.
That should have been the first thing I said. Yes, I actually love hosting KSL at Night. It is where I get to have my normal conversations of politics and bantering.
Great.
And, all the news of the day, and we get to discuss that every night on KSL News Radio from 7 to 9.
Well, let's wake you up with our top national story, Adam.
Dave and Duajanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
We're going to get right into this opinion piece that dropped in the Washington Post from President Biden. And what we're going to talk about right now is his call for term limits. Not for members of Congress, where he served for so long in the Senate, but in fact, he wants term limits for the U.S. Supreme Court, and he wants those term limits to be 18 years. What are your thoughts?
First of all, I don't know why 18 years. He doesn't really specify in the op-ed of why he chose 18 years. Maybe it's 3 Senate terms. It's really interesting. Immediately when I see this, my political brain turns on. My policy brain does not until later. And it's very interesting that a guy who has served for 51 years is saying, hey, we need term limits, and it's a problem if you go over these terms. There was no term limits in the Senate. They were not good enough for
So you're saying it's odd because it's do as I say, not as I've done.
Well, and he says, yes, in the Washington Post op-ed, he says that 75 years ago, Congress put, and I guess it was constitutional amendment, put term limits of 2 terms on presidents of the United States because they didn't want anyone to become too powerful. I'm not opposed to that. It's just interesting that they're not good enough for Congress. And so I think if you're going to do them for everybody. But I see why he's doing this. It's just an interesting timing because he's leaving. He's going to be done in 5 months, 6 months. And so why are we seeing it now? Is it a bad thing? I don't know that it is. We usually appoint Supreme Court justices at, in their mid 50s. So is 18 years too long?
Puts him at 70.
Probably not.
It puts him at about 70, or where they
around
limit
70
out.
years old.
And it sounds like he wants some sort of a system in place that the presidents would appoint every 2 years or something like that, so it would be staggered. Here's my thinking: why the term limits? Why? Like you said, why less than 20 years? Is there something about you get to 19 years and you become corrupt? Is it or you get to 20 years and you're just too old because you're 2 years older than you were the years before? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why is it 18 years? Is that long enough on the Supreme Court? I don't know how long it takes for these justices to get adjusted to their jobs. Okay, it takes me a year to really get situated
Hopefully
in a
it
new
doesn't
job.
take you 15.
No, but 18 years. I don't quite know why that number, and I also don't know yet how I feel about it. I do feel, though, that the Supreme Court justices tend to age out of sort of where America might be at mentally, where we're at in terms of what, how life is now. If you're in your 80s, and I know I'm not that far off. I'm a different person at 57 than I was at 30.
Sure.
Right? I've learned a lot more. I'm also a little more of a get off your lawn get off my lawn kind of a person, right? Than I was. So I think maybe there's a disconnect if they're just they're getting a little bit they've been on there for 30 or 40 years.
I get
right?
that. My question to you, Debbie, is: does this have anything? Would this be an op-ed if the more liberal justices held a majority on the Supreme Court?
It wouldn't be,
because it wouldn't be a problem for the Biden administration.
And this is where Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
right,
kind of messed up, right?
So she was, if you remember, the Obama administration behind the scenes was trying to get her to retire.
Right.
Obama wanted to appoint another Supreme Court justice. I think that would have been his third, and they really wanted her to get out so they could get another liberal on the Supreme Court. This happens all the time. So anytime you're getting close, you want a member of your side to drop out so you can appoint them. And she didn't. She said, no, I'm going to stay in longer. Hillary, presumably Hillary's going to win, and so we'll just wait until that happens. Well, Hillary didn't win. Trump won, and she passed away. And so Trump then got 3 people on the Supreme Court. I still think, and from the second that happened, the Democrats have been going to war over the Supreme Court, and they accuse Republicans of court packing. I don't know how that's court packing, but they're saying that it is.
It really is. The Supreme Court has really always been, in my view, about timing.
Bingo.
It's about how old somebody is, whether they retire or not, whether they get sick.
It's a calculated game.
It's a guess. You don't know. It's really, truly about timing. By the way, we're talking about President Biden's op-ed that dropped in the Washington Post. He is calling for an 18-year term limit for Supreme Court justices. And if you don't recognize the voice, it's the voice of Adam Gardner. He is a political insider here in the state of Utah and also a frequent host of KSL at Night. Finish your thought, then we're going to head to break and take phone calls, Adam.
No, I think this is going to be really interesting to see how Republicans and Democrats respond. I think that this is something that's dead in the water. The Senate will not be able to accomplish anything. until the end of the year. I think they'll maybe pass one budget item, but they're not going to pass any other bills, and they're not going to take up any other big issues. So this is really going to be interesting to see what happens if Republicans or Democrats take the House and the Senate, and who takes the White House.
Straight ahead, let's take your live phone calls. You've been chatting with us for years about term limits on the United States Supreme Court. Well, President Biden is calling for an 18-year term limit. We don't know why 18 years. Adam's trying to do the math. He says maybe there's some multiplication involved.
Or 4 presidential terms.
It's either 4 presidential terms, 4.5 presidential terms, or is it 6 years in the Senate? We don't know why 18 years, but he is calling for term limits at 18 years on the United States Supreme Court. Do you love it or do you not love it? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. Tell us your best argument for or against term limits on the U.S. Supreme Court. Next.
Dave and Duajanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
You have heard us both talk about how much we love our home equity lines of credit, and we want you to know that Utah Community Credit Union makes it easy to access the equity in your home, and they all come with rate inflation protection.
What did I do before I had a HELOC? Honestly, I think I used to stress about a lot of I'd stress about emergencies. Where am I going to come up with this money? I'd stress about doing something to improve the house. I'd stress about high-interest loans on my credit cards. I stress about none of that, because I have access to this money through UCCU.
Yeah, and of course you can use it in a case of an emergency, but if you want to finish your basement or your yard, think about it. You're adding value to your home while you're using the equity that's already there.
Every UCCU home equity line of credit comes with what you said that's so important, Tim, UCCU's rate inflation protection.
And by the way, if you already have a home equity with another financial institution, no problem. Just refinance with UCCU and save.
Utah Community Credit Union, UCCU. You're going to love where you bank.
It could be almost anyone.
Harris will have to choose a running mate, and she will have to do it fast.
Who does Kamala Harris choose to round out the Democratic ticket? This fall, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance will take on Harris and, well, we'll find out. Listen to KSL for the shortlist and speculation. Your voice, your vote 2024 on KSL News Radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. Did you know that we offer 3 distinct styles of gutter protection? Each one meant to handle a specific leaf problem. You might not even know there are different styles of gutter protection, but there are. And if you pick the wrong one, it could be a huge waste of money. Now, the big gutter guard companies won't tell you this. They try to sell you a one-size-fits-all gutter guard. And it could be completely wrong for the amount and types of trees and leaves you have. Not RGS Exteriors. We understand which kind of leaf problem needs which kind of gutter guard. We'll do an in-depth evaluation to assess the types, locations, and numbers of trees in your yard. Based on that data, we match your home to the right gutter guard. So don't risk wasting money on the wrong gutter protection. For a free evaluation and estimate, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com.
As a roofer, I'm always on the go. So I need to be able to get things done from anywhere. That's why I partnered with Beacon. With their unique Beacon Pro Plus app, I've got the brands I depend on, like GAF, right at my fingertips 24/7. I rely on Beacon because I never stop building, and neither do they. Now through September 15th, purchase GAF through Beacon Pro Plus and earn up to $1,500. Go to BECN.com or download the Beacon Pro Plus app today. Beacon, always building.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now save 40% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Beehive Plumbing now offers premier service. 10 years of coverage on both parts and labor. Call or visit beehivepremier.com for expert experience every time.
Every so often in medicine, something comes along that is truly revolutionary.
Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, former orthopedic surgeon, now National Medical Director at QC Kinetics.
I believe this is one of those things.
Dr. Scheinkup is talking about regenerative medicine, something he's practiced, researched, and written about for nearly 2 decades.
The old ways of dealing with joint pain, such as steroids and surgery, are no longer the best ways.
If you have pain from arthritis or injury, you owe it to yourself to learn more about this exciting option, using your own body's natural power to get lasting relief. And there's no better place to learn than QC Kinetics.
There is no one in this country today with more clinics, more satisfied patients, more advanced protocols, or more experience in using this exciting option to deliver life-changing results.
Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics 385-766-1987. That's 385-766-1987. 385-766-1987.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay. We still have big delays trying to get out of Davis County. Southbound I-15 from Woods Cross all the way to 600 North is at a crawl as only 2 left lanes are open right now. That's congesting Legacy Parkway and I-215's West Belt. And eastbound I-80, 4 miles of nearly stopped traffic from the quarry all the way over to East Canyon. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Amanda Dixon. First, one person is dead after a collision between a bicyclist and a garbage truck in Ogden. Second, Delta and the FAA are investigating a flight out of Salt Lake City after the wingtip of a plane struck the tail of a parked plane. And third, Cedar City was hit with a 4.5 earthquake late last night. At least 2,000 people felt the shakes. Right now it's sunny and 81 degrees. Back to David Duajanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Duajanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
Should the Supreme Court of the United States be term limited? President Biden, dropping an op-ed article in the Washington Post, calls for an 18-year term limit. Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. Usually you hear Adam right here on KSL News Radio at night. Recently attended the Republican National Convention. Not for us, but...
Yeah, I was an alternate delegate. I've put my name on that list for 20 years, and this is the first time I actually got
They drew your number.
elected. So.
Adam, we're going to take live phone calls, 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. We really want our listeners to weigh in on what they think about term limits. But before we got... Lots of phone calls here. Before we get to the lines, hold the lines right now. Paul, I know you're waiting there in Ogden. Just hold on for 1 second. I want Adam to give us his hot take on this.
I guess I don't know how I feel about the 18 years. I haven't had time to really digest what exactly that means and why 18 years, why not 20 or 15. Anyway, I just have a lot of issues with I want a better explanation of why the 18 years. It's also very interesting because I don't know if we would have this conversation if the makeup of the court were different. There's a lot of questions going on in my mind, and I'm really anxious to hear what people have to say about it.
I'm going to add a layer to this because in this op-ed, the president also says he's calling for a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court, saying it's common sense. The court's current voluntary ethics code is weak and self-enforced. And there have been a significant number of issues that have bubbled up. You've got, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg amending her disclosure documents in 2017 to include a $4,500 opera costume. I don't know what
everybody needs a $4,500 opera costume.
You brought up earlier today when we were show prepping that Justice Stephen Breyer has taken trips.
Yeah, he took a dozen trips. 3 of all paid for by somebody else. 3 of them were paid for by the Pritzker family, the wealthiest family in Illinois. He's Governor Pritzker is the governor of Illinois. Clarence Thomas, Harlan Crow has paid for a bunch of trips for him on his private jet, paid for tuition for his kid. And so all of this you just have to self-report. And is that the right way to go?
And I want to circle this back to the 18-year term limit. Perhaps there's some thought that if you only serve under 2 decades, you're less prone to being sought out by somebody who wants to take you on a trip.
Sure. But I also think that if you serve somewhere, legislators who have served for just a few years can be Speaker of the House and become super powerful. And I think that some people are prone to that, some people are not.
You mean like self-regulate?
Sure. If it's 18 years, I don't know if that changes who people will seek out.
Whether they'll take a gift or not take a gift.
I think it's a personal decision.
Yeah, just don't take a gift. Yeah.
No no judge in the state of Utah can have their lunch paid for by somebody that would ever come before their court. You can't attend caucus night for whatever your political persuasion. You can't have a lawn sign in your front yard during election season because the appearance is what people are worried about. The Supreme Court doesn't seem to be worried about appearance.
801-575-TALK. Wow. Phone lines lighting up. Hi, Paul. What do you think about the 18-year term limit idea from President Biden?
Well, I think the president should stay in his lane. That is not the function of the executive power. I think it's purely political. I think ever since the overturning of Roe versus Wade, everyone has wanted to now shift the court, whichever party's in favor. The other thing is, being a judge is somewhat different than other jobs. I work within the legal system a lot. A person acquires knowledge over time. And so wisdom is really little more than a function of being able to gather that knowledge.
So like you're suggesting, like it takes a while to get caught up on maybe case law, although some of these have been on, they have been judges maybe in other capacities. So what are your thoughts on that, Adam?
Look, I kind of agree with a lot of what he says. I mean, he said stay in your lane. I actually normally like that, but the president and Congress have purview in the Constitution. And, look, the Congress can impeach justices. That's kind of the regulation. We talked about self-regulation on reporting. Congress has purview to impeach judges. And so, I mean, everyone's kind of in each other's lane in this issue.
Hi, Trevor. Also from Ogden. Wow. Love it that we're lighting up Ogden today. You know why it's 18 years? Why?
Yes. So it's because of the present composition of the court. So we have 9 justices.
Okay.
And so an 18-year term limit, assuming we keep the 9 number of justices, would basically mean that every 2 years we would be putting in a new judge. So every presidential term would have 2 appointments, and then you just have a rotating turnover, and you just slowly phase out the existing justices to get into that kind of a
Trevor, this is amazing. Are you a mathematician?
Regulation.
Are you a math professor?
This has been a proposal kind of floated around on the fringes for long time.
And it makes sense.
So avoiding stacking the court. So basically, instead of having a situation where like Trump in one term gets to appoint 3 justices, and Obama in 2 terms only gets to appoint 2 justices, and Biden in 1 term only gets to appoint no justices, you basically would just have that regulated turnover.
Well, thanks, Trevor, which is perfect if we lived in a perfect world where everybody enjoyed immortality and didn't die unexpectedly. I mean, I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, there were some justices that we expected to live a long time that passed away. And so we don't know, when they're going to go. So you're still going to end up with probably quite a few presidents in the future, even on that 2-year rotation, that are going to be appointing.
They're like 3. In a lucky spot to be able to appoint whoever they want.
We hate to say lucky, we're lucky this guy died. But you're right.
They just resign because they want to retire. Brian, Woods Cross, where have you been? I haven't talked to you in ages.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
What are you,
I try not to talk too much.
Well, I want to hear. You got 30 seconds. Say it all right now.
Well, just really quickly, the purpose of the Supreme Court is to be a slow rolling change. People's immediate desires change. They're fickle. We'll turn over the control of the House every couple of years.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is to have the Supreme Court be slower and to kind of control, be flowing with the will of the people long term. And so that's why it's a lifetime appointment. 18 years means that you'd have two of one term, or one president, two of another, and then you'd be into the third president potential. So it moves that decision out of the realm. The one thing it would do quickly is that at 18 years, now there's a calculus. Do I pick somebody who's 45 or 50, knowing that they're only going to be there in 18 years? Right now, you do that because they might be in there 30 or 40.
Yeah.
I mean, so
all of that can make sense, but you're not sure, Adam, that this is even going to be a deal.
You know what? It's definitely not going to until we have a new president and a new Congress starting next year. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens.
And you'd said earlier, Adam, that you thought, like, why didn't you do this at the beginning of your term, Mr. President?
Yeah, and he had this. I don't know if it's a committee or a commission that he put together to study what's going to happen. And we don't even know if is this the result of that commission or that study.
It sure took a minute to get there. Adam Gardner, thank you so much. I'm so glad you were joining us today in for Dave Noriega. He's going to stick around for the entire show. We're going to talk about the momentum that presidential candidate Kamala Harris is feeling. It's her new BFF raising how much in a week?
9:31 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story, a small earthquake shook southern Utah late last night. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
Cedar City was hit with a 4.5 magnitude quake. That's enough to feel, but not enough to cause much damage. Almost 2,000 people reported feeling the earthquake. The Utah Division of Emergency Management says even small magnitudes require protective action. Drop, cover, and hold on. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
A body was recovered out of the Grantsville Reservoir this weekend. Police believe it's the man who went missing while swimming on Thursday. Rescuers say the man was pulled under the water when the winds picked up. His identity has not been released. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Vice President Kamala Harris says the proposal President Joe Biden has unveiled for changes to the U.S. Supreme Court would help restore confidence in the court. The president is calling on Congress to establish term limits and an ethics code for the court's 9 justices, as well as pressing lawmakers to ratify a constitutional amendment that would limit presidential immunity. President Biden is expected to speak about the changes later today. Your money at this moment, the Dow is off 105. We're at 40,000 right now, 484. And coming up in just a moment, we'll get a look at the KSL weather forecast. Looks like another warm day in store. We'll check it next. KSL News Time is 9:32. Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
If you have a loved one or a family member that is struggling with addiction, just know you are not alone. Millions of people have been exactly where you are, not entirely certain what to do and how you can help. It's part of what I love about Renaissance Ranch. They want to offer free family support services through weekly online classes. They're open to the public. You can attend as many of these as you want. At Renaissance Ranch, they want to help create healing and hope for families. And the more family members are involved, the research has shown that the chances of a positive outcome skyrocket. Classes are taught from a spousal, parental, and personal perspective. Renaissance Ranch has been doing this for more than 20 years. They're faith-based, they're clinically proven, and they treat the entire family. Check out these free online support classes. More than 1,000 people attended last month. Just go to renaissanceranch.com to learn more. That's renaissanceranch.com.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
Check out AMCO's multiple financing options so you can fix it fast and pay it off slow.
That's AMCO, AA, MCO.
The Good Feet Store. The life you love starts here.
A happy place comes in many colors. One that leaves you feeling refreshed. Something that gets you all fired up. Or gives you the space to chill. Whatever your color, bring happiness home with CertaPro Painters and make your happy place your home. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Get started today at CertaPro.com. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
Emergency traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, it's still a struggle for Davis County drivers. Southbound I-15 is at a crawl from Woods Cross all the way to 600 North in Salt Lake City. That is because only 2 left lanes of the freeway are open right around 600 North. And a lot of people are opting for Legacy Parkway as their alternate. So that is creating slowdowns also from Woods Cross down to the I-215 merge and on I-215 down to I-80. Now, the crash that we had eastbound I-80 has been moved over to the right shoulder. All lanes are open, but it's taking time for all the delays to clear out from the mouth of Parley's Canyon all the way over to the East Canyon exit. Use Superior Water and Air for all your HVAC and plumbing needs. Call 974-9090 or visit superiorwaterandair.com. Superior Water and Air. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be sunny with some patchy smoke from those wildfires. The high ought to be around 96 degrees. Right now, it's 82. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Duajanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, the race for the White House. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
Candidate for President Kamala Harris raising $200 million in the first week of her campaign. Her campaign saying they've also amassed 170,000 volunteers. And then she got a critical endorsement.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. It was quite a week for Kamala. What I want to pick your brain about is how long it'll last. But let's start with this last week, Adam.
Look, $200 million is not nothing. That is a lot of money. And when we figure campaigns nowadays are costing around $1 billion with a B, and she can raise $200 million in just a few days, that is an amazing fundraising advantage. President Trump, he had huge fundraising numbers. Actually, after he was convicted of those felony counts in New York, he raised something like $81 million. After his assassination attempt, he raised a ton of money. It seems like folks are waiting and reacting to big events. So when Kamala Harris is announced, she's the only one running. She has squashed the entire field. So there's going to be no race. She is the presumptive nominee now, even with, no delegates and no primaries under her belt. She is able to raise a ton of money. That's a huge strength.
I do wonder if Democrats were waiting for Biden to get out in order to reach into their pocketbooks, and then the floodgates opened, and bam, they're going to give to Harris. When do they run out of money to give?
You know what? You hit the nail right on the head. I think that's exactly what they were waiting for. We kept hearing all of these rumors that President Biden was going to drop out, and Democrat staffers and politicians were leaking things in the administration saying, hey, he's telling us he's going to go to bed at 8 p.m. every night. And then the White House would come and say, no, that's not true.
He stays up till
I'm
midnight.
Alert. I'm working all the time. I'm not going to drop out.
I mean,
Stop
isn't that what we
saying
do now? We should go to bed at 8 p.m., actually.
Right. If you're the president, try and push it a half hour. But that's exactly what was happening. And I think people were just nervous. Like, parting with your hard-earned money to give to a presidential candidate is a big deal, and it can be a commitment for a lot of people. I think a lot of folks, like I know my grandparents, they were on a fixed income, and they would always give every year. Every time they would get one of those stupid postcards, they would feel compelled, like, oh, he really needs my money right now. Well, he doesn't, first of all. But I think that's exactly right. They were waiting. I don't know how long this is going to last. If her numbers continue to climb, especially in battleground states, people will keep giving. If they decline or her favorability declines, the money, I think, will decline with it.
Let's talk about those battleground states because it seems like she is getting a lot of volunteers, 170,000 volunteers. They hold 2,300 campaign events in battleground states this weekend. This is according to the Associated Press. 2,300. I'm like, what do you... Nobody's fishing on the weekend? Okay. So summer weekend, 2,300 campaign events. And you said something to me earlier that really piqued my interest, and I want you to share with our listeners. She's even doing this in Florida. And you're like, why Florida?
She held an event in Florida, and she said Florida is back in play. I don't see that. Governor DeSantis only won by a few points. And his first election, not even a few points, maybe 1 or 2 points. And then when he was reelected, he won by 20 points. I mean, it wasn't close. He even won Miami-Dade, which you just, as a Republican, you don't win. And so I'm failing to see why she's saying she's putting so much. We don't know what she's going to end up doing. Right. But she's saying Florida's in play. We're going down there. We're competing. We have thousands of volunteers. I think maybe you're putting that in the wrong place. She was down by 2 and 3 points in most of these battleground states. And now I'm looking at a Fox News poll where in Michigan, she's tied with President Trump at 49%. In Minnesota, she's up by 6 points. In Pennsylvania, she's tied. And in Wisconsin, she's only trailing by 1. That was not the case a couple of weeks ago.
Do you have there in your crystal ball what she's doing in Arizona?
I haven't seen the polling in Arizona.
We'll look that up. I'm curious about Arizona because that could go either way.
It could go either way. We have we have the Carrie Lake situation where she's running for Senate again. I think people are kind of getting fatigued.
Trump fan.
Big Trump fan, big MAGA person. She lost for governor to someone who wasn't terribly popular, but they have a very popular senator in Mark Kelly. And I think we're waiting to see, at least I'm waiting to see, who she picks as her VP.
We're all waiting.
We're all waiting.
We're going to talk about that next, too.
She's smart to keep that, to keep us all waiting.
Curious.
It's just going to be story after story, just like it was with President Trump. We were all waiting. And so in Arizona, it'll be interesting to see what she does if she picks Mark Kelly as her VP or how much of an effort she puts into the state.
We're talking right now about Kamala Harris's campaign, $200 million raised in the last week, according to her campaign. Almost 200,000 people signing up to volunteer. And now the ABC News Ipsos poll shows her favorability has jumped from 35% from like a week ago to 43%. Now, I don't look at 43% and go, well, that's great. But what I also look when I look at 35%, I'm like, that's not good. So it didn't go down, and it went up by quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's going in the right direction. But how long does this honeymoon last with the Democrats?
The media is being very favorable to her right now. She's getting the great headlines right now. And
tons of social media, too.
Tons of social media, and she's getting a lot of play. That is going to last for a little bit. What I said earlier was as her numbers in battleground states start to decline, people are going to take little chinks of the armor out on her. As her past statements, she hasn't been vetted right? She didn't go through a rigorous primary system. So right now, she's going to have a little bit of a honeymoon. She's the presumptive nominee. And that's going to end when story after story comes out because they need something else to write about. So they're going to write about what she did as Attorney General, how her voting record was as a senator. They do this to everybody. What'll be interesting is when the honeymoon ends, how close to the election are
there
we?
you go. And we're already, I think, close. Now, a lot of people say in 100 days, a lot of things can happen. But I think we're certain.
Both of those statements are true.
She didn't
we are
start,
very
right?
close.
I know you're right. But she didn't start this like a lot 2 years ago. I mean, so they've got 90 days, 95 days to end the honeymoon.
And she has to reintroduce herself to the voters. She can't necessarily just... Biden was incredibly unpopular towards the end. That's why the Democrats kind of pushed him to the side. Everyone felt that he should be pushed to the side. Most major Democrats. So she has to find a way to champion all of his great legislative achievements on the Democratic side, while also kind of shunning all the things that made him not very popular.
And be young.
And be young and energetic.
Yeah.
And
which she seems to be.
She gets made fun of, especially on my side of the aisle, for going out and dancing really terribly with, college kids. And
but it resonates.
You know what? That resonates. And she's got to go after that demographic, and they're going to vote.
They're going to vote. Well, we'll continue to track this. Of course, she's not officially the nominee yet.
Right.
That's still a couple of weeks out, but she's the presumptive nominee. That's what the media is calling her, the presumptive nominee. That's a mouthful. Straight ahead, though, let's talk about this, Adam. The clock is certainly ticking. Who will Kamala Harris pick as her VP running mate? Oh, we've got a list, and Adam's going to go through it with us next. I'm curious to know who you think is the front runner for VP. That's straight ahead.
Dave and Duajanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio. At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with a needs analysis where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no-money-down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hey Utah! When it comes to guiding the growth of our state, you buzzed in with your comments, and we listened to what you had to say. Your feedback on the future of Utah's housing, water, transportation, and open space will continue to help our leaders make important policy decisions, preserving and improving our high quality of life in meaningful ways for years to come. So, thanks for speaking up. Learn more about our state's future at guidingourgrowth.utah.gov.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The Good Feet Store. The life you love starts here.
Jeff Kaplan.
I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app, and we still have about 20 to 25 minutes of extra delay southbound I-15 as you leave Woods Cross and head to 6 North in downtown Salt Lake. That is due to an earlier crash that only 2 left lanes of the freeway are open, so you'll want to take Beck Street or US 89 as your alternates. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Amanda Dixon. First, 2 people are dead after their car rolled down a steep embankment on a mountain road above Provo this weekend. The accident is under investigation. Second, more young adults are not having kids because they say they can't afford it. And third, 1 person is dead after being hit by a garbage truck. The driver says he didn't see the man on his bike. Right now, 82 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to David Duajanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Duajanovic. The Race for the White House. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
I'm curious. I'm curious to know who Kamala Harris will pick to be her running mate and how they'll resonate how that person will resonate with voters. Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. Adam Gardner, a frequent host of KSL at Night, which is, of course, nightly here on KSL News Radio from 7 to 9. You also served in the legislature. You've worked on campaigns. I didn't realize you'd worked for Senator Mitt Romney.
Yeah, that was a great experience. I didn't think I'd work through multiple impeachments and a pandemic and all this other stuff, but it was quite the ride. Working with his team.
Well, I cannot wait then to bounce these names off of you that have bubbled up as possibilities to be VP. I guess, do we call her VP when she's running? I guess there's a presumptive candidate, Kamala Harris's running mate. Some of these names, quite frankly, I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot that are going to be percolating. We know who our own governor is. We have a good relationship as a public and seeing Governor Spencer Cox, but we don't know these governors of some of these other states. And so the reason we know that these are popping up to on the list is the team starts vetting them. And so they start talking to old friends and business associates. And so it gets out. It gets out really quickly who's being vetted. And so you have a couple of names who are unfamiliar to most folks. Andy Beshear of the governor of Kentucky.
What are your thoughts?
So he's a really this is going to not sound politically correct. So I apologize to all of our listeners here. But when Hillary Clinton ran, there was something called the boring white guy theory. And it was, you need to offset, you're kind of a firebrand of progressive politics with someone who is a boring white guy. Because they're kind of your opposite. And so you need balance on that ticket. And so that's how the Democrats have kind of done things in the past. President Biden was kind of, you can kind of say the boring white guy. And so he needed someone to offset him who was younger, had more, liberal bona fides. And so you want to balance that ticket out. And that's what I think they're trying to do right now. So the governor of Kentucky, he's really young. He's 46. He's popular. His dad was an attorney general of the state. So his family is really wealthy and well known. And you can kind of tell that he wants it because he's been going on all of the news shows. And because he's from Kentucky and that's where the VP candidate J.D. Vance is from, he's been attacking J.D. Vance. Like, he's from Kentucky, but he's not a real Kentuckian.
But that I don't know that those types of attacks really work. When you start, it sounds like he's attacking J.D. Vance's hillbilly elegy and his how he was raised. And those are personal stories that are right. People. I mean, he's told his personal story and his journey. I'm not sure how an attack like that resonates. What are your thoughts?
I don't think it resonates with the electorate unless he is looking for an audience of one. If he's looking for Kamala to see that he's willing to go out there and attack, then maybe he can be rewarded for that.
Okay.
So that's all politics.
That's Beshear, governor of Kentucky. Let's talk about, I want to talk about this, the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. I could not open social media all weekend long without seeing him. In fact, he's also on the news circuit as well, on the national news circuit.
I'm all in. I'm all in on this positive future. I'm all in that we can heal some of these rifts, and I think you saw it. You saw soon-to-be President Harris exhibit all those qualities and a grace that America is so hungry for. So I can't tell you, I'm just excited. I'm excited to be here. I've never felt this energy in an awful long time. America's smiling again.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a.k.a. the Ever-Ready Bunny. I've listened to him talk, and I'm like, is that edited altogether? Like, this man talks in quote-unquote sound bites.
He's good. He's really good. He's 60 years old, and he has been a tumultuous governor. I'm not saying he's unpopular, but during the George Floyd protests, he released the National Guard. He's been in the thick of things. He has not had an easy time of being governor. And I think to go on and say, she has been full of grace and this is what people need, I don't think a lot of people would describe Kamala as very graceful on the campaign trail. But it's another one of these things where he's really pumping her up. And he seems a little more sincere. I really think that that it's going to play well to the electorate because he has more of a positive message, which is kind of what you were after. Like, why is attacking J.D. Vance the thing to do? He's not doing that.
I wouldn't bring up his name. I wouldn't even.
He doesn't exist.
You're right.
Let's not talk about him.
Mark Kelly from Arizona, and Arizona may or may not be a battleground state, kind of depending on how things go. But he's an astronaut. He's a Navy veteran. I always like the idea of a veteran being in the White House.
Yeah.
And his wife, Gabby Giffords, survives an assassination attempt 12, 13 years ago. What do you think of him?
And now that you mentioned that, I mean, we remember when she was shot in the head.
Yes.
I mean, it was a horrific. Yeah. She had to learn how to walk and to speak again, and this was a really cool couple because we saw it on the national stage, how amazing they were together. He's one of my top two choices.
Really?
So if I'm the Democratic nominee, he's one of my top two. On all of the big stuff, he votes lockstep with the Democratic Party, but he's also really good at working across the aisle on other things.
That's refreshing.
So he's really good at that. He comes from a swing state, and this is still a swing state. The last poll that was done, Biden was down by 1 point. So it's anybody's game. That's within the margin of error. So he'd be a really good pick.
Okay, can you, in 30 seconds, Pete Buttigieg. We got about 30 seconds here.
Pete Buttigieg, I don't think brings any electoral strategy to the ticket. He was a governor, he was a mayor in Indiana South Bend, and I don't think he could actually win the state of Indiana if he ran for governor. I don't know what he brings you, except he's great on TV. And he's in one of those minority groups, which, he checks a lot of boxes, and he's really smart and has the gift of gab.
And we didn't even get to the possibility of the Pennsylvania governor.
That's my number one choice.
It is.
That's my number one choice.
15 seconds.
Shapiro is great. He looks great on TV. He's a great speaker. He's lockstep with the Democratic Party, and he wins you Pennsylvania.
Adam, it's so fun to have you in. Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega with us until noon today. Straight ahead, new research showing a growing number of adults in the United States never intend on having kids. Why? Lois Collins with the Deseret News has been looking into it. She's live with us next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, the Better Business Bureau warning of scammers trying to take advantage of people during the Olympics. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobe reports.
Even before the games got started in Paris, the Better Business Bureau says they're seeing new scams pop up. That includes everything from scam texts and emails to fake job offers to college students. The best thing you can do to protect yourself is only go to the official websites and click on trusted links.
The Bureau also has links up on their website on how to spot fake merchandise and knockoffs during the Olympic Games. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. California dealing with huge wildfires in several parts of the state, including the Post Fire, which has burned 350,000 acres near Chico. The state is seeing the hottest and driest start to its summer fire season ever. Smoke from these fires causing air quality alerts from the Cascades down through the Rockies. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up just a bit on the day. The NASDAQ also up by about 68 points. Our KSL weather, it's going to be sunny, but that smoke is drifting through. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Life can feel hard or overwhelming sometimes, but you don't have to face things alone. Getting help for yourself or someone you're worried about starts with a call or text to 988, where you always have someone to talk to, someone to help you, and somewhere safe to go. 988 Utah is here for anyone experiencing mental health challenges or emotional distress, and can even help you navigate how to support your struggling loved ones. Whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, trained professionals are ready to listen and provide free, confidential support 24/7. Utah, don't hesitate to call or text 988 for you or someone you care about. The caring staff at 988 Utah can connect you to the right resources. Learn more at 988lifeline.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Tim and Amanda.
One of the big differences, I think, between reading a story online and hearing it from us, Tim, is that, you and I are allowed to share a reaction. We need to be able to say, what in the world were they thinking? So that people listening will know. We feel it too. When we read a story that sounds ridiculous, we're right with you. It sounds ridiculous.
Well, we get caught up, I'm sure just like our listeners do sometimes, in death scrolling on social media. And fact-checking it on your own is tough. The great thing about tuning in every morning and starting your morning with us on KSL is you can count on the fact that when that information comes out of the radio in your direction, it comes from reliable sources.
It's already been fact-checked.
Right. And that's not always easy when you're getting it online. Finding who wrote it, when was it written, has it been updated with the current facts of the day that change sometimes minute to minute, not just day to day.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
We have emergency traffic brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, this is on southbound I-15 coming out of Davis County. It's all due to an earlier fatal crash that happened just before the 600 North exit in Salt Lake City. Now, right now, the 2 left lanes are the only ones open right now. 3 right lanes are closed, and that has traffic backed up from 6 North all the way back into Woods Cross. It's taking an extra 20 minutes to get through there. A lot of people are taking Legacy Parkway as an alternate, so it's still slightly under the speed limit, especially as you transition from Legacy onto the I-215 West Belt. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
And we'll have wildfire smoke from California drifting through the Wasatch Front, dropping our air quality into the yellow and even the orange range. Highs in the mid-90s until Friday when we get back to 100. 85 degrees and sunny right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Duajanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Let's talk about this article in the Deseret News written by our friend Lois Collins. Pew Research trying to figure out why so many adults in the United States don't have children. And the numbers are shocking. I'm going to just give you a taste of what Lois's article says here, Adam. Adam Gardner, by the way, in today for Dave Noriega. Adam often hosts KSL at night. One of the key points in Lois's article says, among U.S. adults who are not parents, the share who say they don't expect to ever have kids has risen 10 percentage points between 2018 and 2023 to now 47%.
That's a lot in such a short period of time. If we're continuing this trajectory, there's not a lot of people that are going to want to have kids. And the interesting thing is, and Lois does a fantastic job in this article of explaining that people that are over 50 that have never had kids have completely different reasons a lot of the times than those that are under 50. And it seems like one is more of a, it didn't happen, and the other is, this is my choice and I don't want to.
Yeah, with the older adults, 31% said it just didn't happen for whatever reason, but they thought that they would have kids. And as you go through the older 50 breakdown, the numbers with age get smaller with the ones who didn't have kids. So people over 70 mostly had kids. People over 50, a lot of them didn't have kids for whatever reason. With the younger kids, there are lots of reasons why. The 18 to 49 who say that they don't think they're going to have kids, huge numbers say we don't want them. We just don't want them. Very few people on either side say that it was a medical reason that they couldn't have kids. They just, for whatever reason, didn't have them, didn't find the right partner if you were older, just didn't happen.
Sometimes that can be about like you said, the right partner, timing,
money, age when you get married, and then there are a whole bunch of things that play into it.
Does anything suggest that it has to do with the cost of raising kids?
Everything suggests that. So among the reasons that kids say that and I say kids because I'm older. Everybody's a kid if you were born like in the last 50 years. But the reason that people under 50 say that they don't want to have kids, too expensive. They worry about the state of the world. They worry about environmental issues, and they don't want to. And sometimes don't want to has to do with those other 3 issues.
I find that really, the environmental thing just does not make any sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. What kind of issues are they giving for environmental factors? Are we worried about climate change, or am I not going to have kids because the sea levels are rising? I mean, what?
They didn't break it down really thoroughly in this report as to how that panned out, but in other people that I've talked to, other studies that I've looked at, we do a lot of banging our chests and screaming the world is falling apart. And I think kids are really absorbing that message, and that's probably has something to do with some of the anxiety and the distress that we see as well. I mean, everything sort of tends to be connected. But I think that, to some degree they are worried that the world will not sustain their kids. and that it physically will not sustain their kids, so they're not going to have kids.
We're talking to Lois Collins. Her story in the Deseret News is fascinating, and I think we can all relate to it. We all know somebody who's decided maybe they're not going to have kids by choice, and her research is showing that there's a number of reasons why people are choosing not to have kids in America. And she's looked at this Pew Research survey that asks why so many U.S. adults don't have any children. To your point, Lois, about all the publicity and news articles surrounding, almost like sometimes it feels like a doomsday. Inflation is out of control. It's, you won't be able to afford, you need $2 million in the bank to be able to afford to retire. Social Security won't be around. Think about all of those messages that very well may be the case, but when you're pummeled with that over and over on all different platforms, whether it's on, the news stations or on social media, you have to put your thinking cap on and say, what's that going to look like if I decide to have kids?
So the other thing, though, is you have to think about what's it going to look like if I decide not to have kids.
Very good point.
If everybody quits having kids, then we're not going to have to worry about schools. That's not a good thing. Yeah. We're not going to have a growing economy. That's not a good thing. We're not going to have entrepreneurship. And who are you and I going to sell our houses to when we're ready to cash out if there's nobody coming behind us?
Because most people's retirements are in their homes.
I mean, literally, people do not think about everything being so interconnected. And it's one thing to say that I personally choose not to have kids. And by the way, I would point out that I didn't think I was going to have kids, and I had 2 of them. So, this is a fluid thing. But you don't think about the connections of, okay, what does my retirement look like if nobody has kids? What does the social safety net look like? There's a bunch of stuff.
The dominoes of this get me anxious.
You have a lot of countries that are already experiencing this.
Tons of them.
So you have Japan, who is offering crazy incentives.
Hong Kong, South Korea. South Korea is going out of its mind. It's got like 0.85 fertility.
That is terrifying.
And
those are terrifying
2.1
numbers.
is replacement. They're going out of their minds.
China even got rid of their one-child policy to encourage. Now they're encouraging people to have kids. Russia, we've seen they can't replace their population. They're going down fast. Italy. So we have this huge problem in the United States if we continue on this trajectory. And maybe a lot of that is somewhat self-inflicted. And I'm just thinking about daycare. If my wife is a stay-at-home mom and I have 4 kids.
It's brutal.
We could not have 4 kids. We could not have 4 kids if she went to work and we had to pay for daycare.
Would that be about $4,000 a month?
But yeah, it's tricky that way, and it's also tricky the other way because a lot of families can't afford not to have 2 incomes. So that limits you.
It's a catch-22
because you can't choose to be a stay-at-home mom or dad because you can't afford it.
How do we get past this? I mean, I know there's no one answer to it, and a lot of it is personal, choices between couples.
Some of it, I think, might be a leap of faith. That you just live your life and don't live in fear. I don't know.
So I tend to agree with that, and we were kind of just saying on break that when we were having the decisions to have kids, having kids is one of the most fulfilling, awesome, fun, cool experiences of my entire life, and it has become my purpose, to raise my kids. But you don't understand that until you have them.
You actually just have to do it to know it. And I would add something just from a religious point of view. I'm somebody who believes in God, and I don't think I could ever understand God's love until I looked at my own child and said, oh my gosh, there's no bucket big enough to hold all this love.
There is. I was talking to my oldest daughter yesterday. She gave me a phone call, and it's so interesting that you wrote about this. I didn't know you'd written about this till I was, this morning when I saw it, Lois. But I was telling her about what it meant to me to be a mom. My kids are like yours, older now. What yours are in their 20s, 30s? Mine are in their 20s, late 20s, mid 20s. And I just said to her, "There's never a time I don't think of you 3." And it could be as simple as a song comes on the radio, and I'm like, "Oh, Lizzie would love this song. I gotta find it on Spotify and send it to her." It's just
Yep.
I didn't understand before I had kiddos how much they would consume of my thoughts every single day. Now, sometimes that's a little bit, stressful. Like, where are they not home?
Yeah.
It's 12:05.
What are they doing?
Yeah,
Yes.
what are they doing?
Are they
What are
safe?
they up to? Are they
Yeah.
safe? All those things. But it does appear that more and more American adults are making the choice not to have kids, because you said the research shows very few of when I think of this, I think, well, maybe medically there's something that
Not mostly.
Not
mostly. It's not finding the right partner, not that time in life, whatever, but it's not mostly medical.
Wow, fascinating. You can see, of course, you can read Lois's article at Deseret.com, and it's just a great story, fascinating read. Lois Collins of the Deseret News. Always appreciate, well, first of all, your friendship, and then also your willingness to pop in studio today with Adam and me to talk this through. We're going to talk it through with our listeners straight ahead. What is your biggest fear about having kids? We're going to take live calls. Adam, you good with that?
I'm ready.
All right, Adam is ready. What is your biggest fear about having children? Is it the environment? Is it financial? Are you worried that, Social Security won't be around by the time they get that age? 801-575-TALK. 801-575-TALK. We'll take your live calls next.
Dave and Duajanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
To celebrate Team USA going for gold, Xfinity is offering a gold medal deal. Now, through August 11th, get our best offer yet with 300 megabit Xfinity internet and one line of unlimited mobile for just $35 a month for a year and a free 5G phone. And the action doesn't stop there. Save on some of the biggest names in streaming by adding the new Xfinity Stream Saver with Peacock, Apple TV Plus, and Netflix for just $15 a month. Don't wait. When the Olympic Games end, so does this deal. Go to Xfinity.com/Team USA. Call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Get the fastest connection to Paris with Xfinity, proud partner of Team USA.
Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Equipment tax and fees extra and subject to change. After promo, regular rates apply to internet and mobile. Stream Saver price subject to change. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. Actual speeds vary and not guaranteed. Free 5G phone requires eligible trade-in. Select models only.
It's been a crazy summer.
The shooter managed to get onto a roof.
Biden has already endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris.
It's a hot weather stretch. The Olympics are coming back to Utah.
And no hint of slowing down. Tim and Amanda get you caught up on what happened overnight from 5 to 9. Dave and Debbie and Boyd Matheson take a deep dive on the day's biggest stories from 9 to 3. And Jeff Kaplan gives you his trademark Minute of News for your drive home.
We have you covered
all summer
on KSL News Radio.
A secure retirement just doesn't happen by accident. When that day comes, what's most important to you? Are you sure to have more money than month? What about unexpected medical costs? Do you want to leave something to the kids or the grandkids? I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want you to know we specialize in these questions and can help make your retirement dream a reality with some of the highest guarantees in the business. Imagine getting up to a guaranteed 12% growth on your retirement income and up to a 30% bonus up front just for opening an account. If you have funds sitting idle in an old 401k or IRA, consider guaranteeing it to secure the peace of mind you deserve. Don't leave your financial security to chance. Take advantage of the highest guarantees I've seen in my career. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600. Or visit us online at TrajanWealth.com.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted it close to town with a picture window overlooking a yard. And you found it. Now, when you sit down to dinner, you've got front row seats too. Your neighbor's daily pickleball game. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
Gotta change my oil.
How about Valvoline Restore and Protect? It restores and protects your engine to run like new.
Get in zone.
It restores your engine to, like, factory clean?
And protects.
Get in zone.
So Valvoline Restore and Protect restores and protects.
Now you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for $37.99.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Do you have your sewer main line routered once a year to maintain it? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and you're not really supposed to have to do that. I was talking to Matt Hansen, who oversees the drains department at Any Hour Services. He says if a homeowner's clearing their main line on a regular basis, it's usually an indication of a bigger problem. Roots, cracks, bellies, offsets, it's just a matter of time before it fails. Unfortunately, people usually wait until there's a major backup to inspect their sewer line. By then, you end up with flooding, not to mention the inconvenience of taking time off, replacing carpet. It's a mess. I think the main reason people put it off, though, is because it can cost a couple $100 to have your sewer line inspected. For a limited time, this sewer camera inspection is 50% off if you call Any Hour Services and mention this ad. That way, you can actually see what's causing the problem and decide if you want to fix it or just keep rootering it. Call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app, and we still have only 2 left lanes of southbound I-15 open right before you get to the 600 North exit in Salt Lake City. This has traffic backed up almost into Woods Cross. The delays are starting to shrink a little bit, but it's still going to take an extra 15 to 20 minutes from Davis County into downtown, so you need to allow for that on your commute this morning. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, scammers will use just about any excuse to rip people off, including the Olympics. Second, smoke from California wildfires drifting clear across the west. And third, police are trying to find the driver in a hit-and-run fatality in Mill Creek. Right now, 85 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Duajanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Duajanovic.
We have got an issue going on in this country that more and more U.S. adults are making the choice not to have children. We just went in depth with Lois Collins of the Deseret News, wrote a fascinating, fabulous, very in-depth article on the research that shows like more, and it's happened. I mean, it's happening in pretty short order from 2018 to 2023. The number of American adults who are saying, I'm not going to have kids, has grown. Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. What are your thoughts?
I just think it's kind of a terrifying thought to think that we can't replenish our population. And the thought of, I mean, we think inflation is bad. Wait till your country can't grow at all. Wait till you end up like Japan and you have a ton of elderly folks and no one having more kids. Like, who works to pay for and take care of your older generation? Like, that's a massive, massive crisis. Like, I was thinking, I worked for a county in the state, and one of the things our executives or HR folks would always talk about is, hey, 70% of the entire workforce of our county, like just the county government, is ready to retire. They can retire at any moment. And that was a terrifying thought because you'd have to replenish everybody. You'd have to pay for their pensions. County government would get very expensive at that time. And now we're talking on a national scale. That's a pretty scary thought.
Can I be honest with you? I never thought of this before. We really started talking about this most recently. I didn't think about this when I was in my 20s or my 30s. I just did not think it was at all my responsibility to continue to populate the world. I just looked at it and said, hey, my husband and I looked at each other and like, what do we want to, how many kids do we want to have?
Sure. But
we didn't even look at the numbers. I mean, we were like, we didn't even realize daycare was what it was.
I think the difference is you and your spouse and me and mine, when we got married, that was, it seemed like that was both of your goals. You just were expecting we're going to have kids.
Well, it kind of was also, I think, pressure. We did feel, you felt
Who did your
of the
pressure come
society.
from?
Probably more so like not necessarily my family. I don't want to point any fingers, but it did feel like we were like, responsible for carrying on the good name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also just people would ask, we got married, and I think within a time we got back from our honeymoon, people were like, so when are you going to start having kids?
Right.
Like, whose business is that? But there was just this underlying question, like, I don't think we ask those same questions anymore of people. I think it's going to become kind of non-polite to ask that.
And my wife and I, we didn't have conversations of, okay, when we have a kid, how much is daycare going to cost? Like, we didn't budget for any of this stuff. We had a kid, and we were just like, okay, we're going to figure it out. And then we had 3 more. Yeah. And you just kind of have to figure it out every time.
And I do think that this is what is hitting the younger generation in the face daily, whether it's from news sources, it's from social media, it's from family members. Daycare is $800 to $1,200 a month. Buying a home, an existing home, is $500,000. Well, where's it going to be when you get ready to move up from maybe that condo or that townhome or that apartment? Where's that price point going to be? Births. I mean, if you don't have insurance or really good insurance, births can cost thousands. Giving birth can cost thousands and thousands of dollars. We're taking live phone calls. 801-575-TALK. Let's start with Jake and Magna.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for taking my call, Debbie.
Any day, Jake. It's always good to hear you. Have you met Adam before?
No, I have not. Pleasure meeting you, Adam.
Well,
Thanks
you know what?
We're
going to get acquainted over talking kids.
Go for it. What's your take?
No, absolutely. So, just as a preface, we just had our first child 2 weeks ago.
Congrats.
And so we've had a lot of thoughts into this. And you know what my biggest concerns are? There's principally 3. I'll see if I can get those in. The first one being that when we look at the standard of living, we're trying to fit more people in less space. I mean, we're talking about big homes used to be on acres. Now it's townhomes and condominiums. And my biggest fear is like children are becoming addicted to that technology because there's no space anymore. I mean, to get anywhere, there's cost to it. You have to drive them everywhere. There's no longer a yard that they can just entertain themselves in life. And so just the way the world is changing around us is doing more in less space, which may not be the most conducive for kids later on. The second point that I get scared of as a parent is when I read articles in like other states like California where parents aren't the parents. I mean, some parents are being arrested because they're not allowing their children to have certain medical procedures that they don't approve of. And the parent culture is going away. And that scares me because I want to parent my child. I don't want a government or institution to basically replace that. And that scares me, how much that's changing. And as far as the cost of incentivizations, I get scared when I hear that Kamala Harris doesn't want to offer the child tax credit. It scares me.
Because it gives you a break when you file your taxes.
Yeah, because the cost is already getting so high due to inflation on top of everything.
Well, thanks so much for your call, Jake, and once again, congrats on your newborn. You want to?
That's big news. Congrats. Having a baby is awesome. We'd said in the last segment that you don't understand how amazing it is to have kids or the potential of just like the love you have for another person until you actually have them. And so congrats. 2 weeks on. You will not be sleeping for the next little bit.
Yeah. What do you think of the issue of rising college costs? You hear about graduates getting saddled with tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Do you think did that factor in at all to any of your train of thought when you were having kids? Because it did for us, and I'll tell you where it factored in is when I started seeing the cost of college go up from the $800 a semester we paid when I went to college. I think it was about that. Back in the 1980s, we started saving like $100 a month per child because I knew, we thought our kids are going to go to college, right? They're going to go, this is what we do. We go to college. I didn't even think what to ask them. I'm like, you just go to college. But an extra $100 a month, That was $300 a month. And we saved for 18 years, Adam.
Good for you. That's amazing.
And then we got there
I
and
didn't
it
do
paid
that.
for 1 year. Do you think that's
ridiculous?
Right?
You know, inflation goes up by
maybe a little bit
8%
more.
and tuition goes up by 400, 500%.
But is that one of the things that people you think are looking at and saying, how are they going? What are they going to what are they going to do? Maybe they will do a trade. Maybe they will find a great path, a career without attending college. But I always look down the road and think, what are my kids going to do once they're no longer cute and little anymore?
Did you have those thoughts once you had the kids?
It was like a light bulb moment.
So
I panicked.
that's what I think is interesting.
We started buying savings bonds, Adam.
I think that's great.
Well, yeah, I guess.
But I never had those conversations with my wife before we had kids. So it was like, we have kids. Oh crap! Now we have to figure it out. My biggest worry has not been college. It should be maybe.
Well,
mine is housing. My
yes,
kids.
now.
By the time my kids are ready to buy a house is going to cost $1 million for a starter home. And how are they ever going to afford that? And so these are my biggest fears as my kids get older.
Well, if I would have known that the average cost of a home in Utah was $500,000 to $600,000 when my kids were born in 1996, 1997, and 1999, yes, we had 3 kids under the age of 4. You're welcome. I would have probably not put that money into college funds. I probably would have gone out. In fact, I was pushing for this. We didn't follow through this. Let's go out and buy 3 condos right now. They were $25,000 each.
How times have changed.
Right across from the Walmart in Midvale. $25,000. I wanted to buy 3 of them.
If you only would have done it.
I got vetoed.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Police are trying to find a driver that they say ran over a woman in Mill Creek and took off early Saturday morning. 20-year-old Lindsay Van Orman was hit when she stopped to help an injured cat near 23rd East and 30th South. Her cousin, Justin Ipower, tells KSL TV she was the sweetest person you could ever meet.
Losing your own, it's unfathomable, the pain. I just hope the word gets out. Bring justice to our family.
Police say a white or silver pickup truck with a rack stopped briefly but ended up speeding off. You can find the link to a GoFundMe page for Van Orman's funeral expenses at kslnewsradio.com. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. There's a new blood test that checks for colon cancer. This is called SHIELD. FDA approval opens the door now for insurance coverage and makes it more widely available. It's approved for people 45 and older with an average risk. A colonoscopy, though, is still the gold standard for cancer screening. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up just a bit today, while the NASDAQ is up about 104 points right now. And our KSL weather. We've got that smoke drifting through from across the west. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
I know it's probably kind of funny to think about being passionate about soft water, but I am passionate about soft water because Connecticut of Utah made me care and made me understand the importance of having soft water in your home. Utah has some of the hardest water in the entire country, and you will feel that on your skin. You'll see the problems in your laundry, the dishes. My goodness, I cannot tell you what a frustration it was for me to try to clean my dishes and you have those hard water stains on your glasses. I spent so much money on expensive chemicals to try to make them look clean. Well, with soft water, that all goes away. It helps keep our skin soft and hydrated and healthy. It's great for our laundry. It helps keep everything clean in our house, and it will breathe life into your water heater. You should really look into a water softener from Connecticut. We decided to make the investment, and we're so happy we did. Connecticut is obviously an authorized Connecticut dealer. Just give them a call at 801-576-8600 or check them out online at softwaterutah.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. In October of 1985, A woman named Cherie Warren left work at a busy Salt Lake City office
to meet her estranged husband at a downtown auto dealership.
She never made it home. Cherie's car surfaced weeks later in Las Vegas.
In the parking lot of a hotel casino.
No one knows how it got there.
Strange. It was strange.
Both Cherie's estranged husband and her boyfriend raised suspicion for investigators.
I kind of thought that he might have done something.
But no arrests were ever made. In Cold Season 3, we dig into double lives, make new connections in the case, and examine the difficulty raised by reasonable doubt.
We want answers just as much as anyone else.
They have creeps like that now too, so nothing's changed.
That's the new Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie, now available anywhere you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Emergency traffic now, and here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the freeway just reopened all lanes southbound I-15 right before the 600 North exit in Salt Lake City. Now, previously, the freeway had been shut down for about an hour. Then only 2 left lanes were open for 3 more hours. So now all the lanes are open, but it's going to take time for those residual delays to clear out. The on-ramp from 1100 North to go southbound I-15 remains closed, however. That's due to an earlier fatal crash. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our wildfire smoke from California is drifting through the Wasatch Front, dropping our air quality into the yellow and even the orange range. Highs in the mid-90s until Friday when we get back to 100. Right now, we're at 86 degrees. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Duajanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
This is this story, Adam, from Lake Powell. We're going to talk about that. It shook me. Let me fill our listeners in just a bit on what happened and the word we got here at Broadcast House on Saturday. I happened to see it Saturday night. And let's put the photo up on our feed, our live feed right now, so our listeners who are watching on YouTube or whatever source you're watching on, maybe you're watching on the KSL News Radio app, can see the photo of this boat. It was a pontoon boat on Lake Powell. My understanding is it was being towed by another boat. Do we have that photo to put up yet? Can we throw that photo up there so people can know what we're talking about? There we go. Look at this. Yeah. I'm sorry. It's capsized. I mean, I'm very choked up still looking at that. Pontoon boats. Anyway, let me tell you what happened. We're going to talk about pontoon boats and towing and all, because so many people own them. They're extremely popular right now. 2 4-year-old boys and a 70-plus-year-old woman were killed. What I read is that there were a number of people on this pontoon boat. It was being towed. Not entirely clear the circumstances about why it was being towed. We'll get more from KSL 5 Television in just a moment. But it had to have been an absolute chaotic scene on Lake Powell, and my heart aches for anybody who was there. Of course, the victims, a couple of people had to be transported. But you're a boater as well, Adam, and I've certainly had my share of boating over the last 30 years. And when I saw this out of Lake Powell, I thought, first of all, my goodness, I just can't even.
And I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and so of course when this happened, and I got a push notification from KSL that this had happened, and so my wife and I were talking about it and kind of talking about how awful it was. And a 12-year-old girl is in critical condition, and you can imagine if you've been to Lake Powell or any lake really, and it is a calm day and you're on glass.
I know, I love it.
And then the winds pick up.
I know.
And there is not a scarier situation than being at Lake Powell when the winds are up and the waves are going. And if you're being towed, you have no motor control at all. And when you capsize, I mean, that picture that you have up there, there's no way a 4-year-old's getting out. Is getting out from under that.
And what I what we're reading is that at least 11 people were on that boat when it capsized.
That doesn't seem that big for 11 people.
I know. Have you been on a pontoon? Pontoons are surprisingly huge and roomy, and they're flat. Like we have ski boats,
Yeah.
and people sit on the edges of them or whatever, not on the edge, but on the benches on the edge and then in the bow as well. And, I don't know. I always felt uncomfortable once the population count passed 7 on our ski boat. There just wasn't enough room to move around, and it just felt too cramped. Pontoons are surprisingly roomy, but I also wonder if they're also more prone to flipping. And again, we don't know all the circumstances. Let's get a little more from KSL5 Television's Brianna Chavez. She kind of sums up what happened.
So here's what we know. This all happened at Lake Powell at the mouth of Navajo Canyon in Coconino County, Arizona. And according to the Park Service, a 25-foot pontoon boat was being towed by another boat. That's when the Park Service says waves at the lake led the pontoon to unfortunately capsize. We're told that 11 people were on that towed pontoon and several people were trapped underneath.
So that's the latest from KSL5 TV. She's saying that, Brianna's saying that people were trapped underneath. Let's bring on Ty Hunter. He's the boating programming manager with the Utah Division of Outdoor Recreation. There's been so many opportunities over the summer. We've appreciated our relationship with the Division of Outdoor Recreation. Ty, we've talked about life jackets and safety around water, and this just seems like such an unusual circumstance out of Lake Powell.
Yes, it is. It is an unusual circumstance that occurred, especially when we've got a lot of people in some aspects doing the right things of having their life jackets on and such there. So, we don't have many of these that occur in our state and also in the West and in the nation. But when they do, they are tragic as they occur.
Were these folks wearing life jackets?
I am unsure of who all was wearing. The reports that I have heard out of this, that all the juveniles were wearing life jackets at that time.
It sounds like when the pontoon flipped, Ty, that some got trapped underneath. And I looked at that photo on Saturday night. I was crying. It just breaks my heart to think of the tragedy in the moment and everybody trying to save, their lives. It sounds like the pontoon acted like a lid, and maybe trapped people underneath. And I do wonder with the popularity, it feels like pontoons are very popular. I just wonder if they're more susceptible, if strong winds kind of creep up to flipping over. Do you happen to know anything about that?
Well, yeah, I can tell you with the particular hull style of a pontoon, whether it's a traditional pontoon with two hulls on it or a 3-hull pontoon that is described or you've seen in your photos here with this one. They are a very stable boat with it. Now, when they're underway or even being towed, there are some dynamics that the owner or operator needs to know and understand, and that is how to approach those waves, and that big flat deck can kind of shovel into the waves and then do what they call pitch pole, which is where it starts to bring water on the deck, and then it quickly capsizes, and so that occurs. And that is notorious for either the catamaran style hulls or these pontoon hulls. It is something that does occur.
So what advice do you have to boaters out there, especially those who are towing and being towed?
All right. First and foremost, I've said it plenty of times here on your show. Wear a life jacket. Life jackets only work if you wear them. In this aspect where entrapment occurred, that is very, very rare, being in there, and sometimes you may have to take your jacket off to get out from under the boat.
Oh, okay.
With that, it's pretty hard to swim down with a life jacket. That it's doing its job to keep you keeping you floating. The other one is while you're operating, the biggest thing is to know your area, know what the weather is going to do. You're in those canyons, the wakes from boats are amplified. They just keep bouncing off the walls as it happens. And then if you have a wind event, that occurs too. So know what your boat's capabilities are. And the biggest thing is to go at speeds of that you are comfortable with, and just slow down and take it slow, and don't have your people moving around on the deck. Make sure that they're staying in one spot so you can read that boat and how that boat's going to react to the waves. Now with towing, pontoons are very unique to tow with. A lot of people would think, let's hook it onto the same place we hook our trailer on while we tow that boat down the road on the trailer. And that is not the right place to hook up to a pontoon boat and tow it if it's disabled. You must hook on to the two outer hulls on that pontoon. So this one has 3 pontoons on it. Mm-hmm. You would hook on to the one on the port and one on the port and on the starboard side, the left and right side, 2 outer ones, and you would make a bridle. And then you would hook your tow line to that bridle so that tow line could move back and forth on that bridle and equally apply pressure to those pontoons and to the sides of that vessel, and then keep it to where it's a little less squirrely behind the boat, because when it starts to get squirrely, that's what's going to hook a corner and pitch pole.
It's a lot to know. But potentially life-saving information that you've just shared. Ty Hunter, boating programming manager with the Utah Division of Outdoor Recreation. We'll make sure, we'll load this, of course, onto our podcast. You can get it on your favorite podcast platform. I will also post it later today to my KSL News Radio Facebook page, because I want to make sure boat owners have this information. Boating is super popular. And unfortunately, we just had a horrific tragedy happen over the weekend in Lake Powell, Adam.
I did not know any of the information. I knew the life jacket stuff. So, Ty, you were good there. But on that towing, on how to tow a pontoon, that just never would have crossed my mind.
I've been towed before in my boat. It was not a pontoon, and because it was just dead. The boat just died in the water. I mean, there was just no way to start it. We didn't know what was going on, so we got towed. And it wasn't that far that we had to be towed, but when you think about your boat is just completely incapacitated.
At the mercy of the waves.
Yeah, and I would also suggest this. Okay, and I might be stepping out on a limb a little bit here, but if you're a boater and you see somebody towing a boat, and I'm not saying that happened in this circumstance at all, but if you're coming up at 80 miles an hour on your boat pulling tubes, slow down.
Agreed.
Because you're just creating havoc, and I'm realizing that when I was being towed, people were not slowing down. It was on Rockport, and you just slow down. Be respectful. I mean, anything can happen. And when you're trying to get a disabled boat to shore, those people who are on the boat, and that's something we should probably follow up with Ty, is I'm wondering if everybody could have transferred to the boat that was towing them, if things would have, although 11 people is a lot of people to transfer onto the boat. I'm not sure how that would have worked out.
How big the boat was.
Exactly. We don't have a lot of that information. Situation. We are going to continue to track that story right here at KSL News Radio throughout the day to get the latest. You'll hear more, of course, with Jeff Kaplan this afternoon and his news team. They start things off at 3 o'clock and they go till 7. Straight ahead, an earthquake. It shook southern Utah last night. Amanda and Tim reporting that 2,000 people felt it. We're going to go in depth on what shook and how big the quake was next.
Dave and Duajanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
You don't have to live with cataracts. The Moran Eye Center can help you return to crisp, clear vision. Recently ranked among the nation's top 10 eye centers by U.S. News & World Report, Moran's highly trained cataract surgeons give you state-of-the-art personalized care. If you're looking for a cataract doctor near you, the Moran Eye Center has the top experts in the field right here in Utah. Visit MoranEyeCenter.com and schedule a consultation today.
This week, the movie show broadcasts live from Hale Center Theater. Give the gift of memories all year long with the 2025 season tickets and gift cards. Go to hct.org. Again, that's hct.org.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
Gotta change my oil.
How about Valvoline Restore and Protect? It restores and protects your engine to run like new.
Get in zone.
It restores your engine to, like, factory clean?
And protects.
Get in zone.
So Valvoline Restore and Protect restores and protects.
Now you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life Oil Filter for $37.99.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Hey, I'm Casey Scott, and I have a podcast called Project Recovery, inspiring stories about going from rock bottom to living addiction-free. Follow us on KSLpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, police are trying to find a suspect in a fatal hit-and-run accident in Mill Creek over the weekend. Second, a new blood test can detect colon cancer in its early stages. Third, red flag warnings for wildfires are up across much of Utah today. And right now we're at 86 degrees. It's sunny. Back to David Duajanovic on KSL News Radio.
David Duajanovic. Be Ready, Utah. Special coverage with David Duajanovic.
Talking about Be Ready because, once again, we had a light earthquake. This one was in the Cedar City area, about 19 miles southeast of it, Cedar City. Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. It looks like it happened yesterday. Is today the 29th?
Today's the 29th.
No, it was barely that yesterday. It happened at 11:30 last night.
You know, all I can think of is, I mean, this was a 4.5, and I think the one that was in Magna a couple years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic, was like was it a
5.4?
Oh, no, it wasn't 5?
No, what Wade Matthews is on with us right now. Let's
all
ask
right,
Wade. We'll fact check ourselves with Wade. What was the magnitude earthquake in Magna?
Good morning. Thank you. Yes, it was a 5.7 magnitude.
5.7.
Good memory.
I said 5.4. It was 7. I mean, my goodness.
And that was felt for a
I
while,
know.
and I felt that like crazy. And so I'm wondering, Wade, in Cedar City, what does a 4.5 magnitude feel like?
It was definitely felt. It is not going to be as severe of shaking as we felt in Magna, which woke many of us up from, whether we were sleeping, feeling it sitting in our chairs. I think it would be, as Debbie put it, this is like a smaller quake versus a moderate. We would have called the Magna quake a moderate quake.
Okay.
So it's definitely felt. But, one of the things we pointed out last night is that, if there was any damage or anything, it would be very minimal. But we just want to remind people, this is, what's the protective action for earthquake? Drop, cover, and hold on. Regardless of the size, if we feel it shaking, we need to remember the protective action, drop, cover, and hold on.
Well, we have a fresh audience member here in Adam Gardner, Wade Matthews with the Utah Division of Emergency Management, of course, joining us frequently, talking about how to be ready with the Be Ready Utah program. We've been talking to you for years about how to be ready and be prepared, even for a 4.5. I suppose you don't know if something's going to fall off the wall or so remind all of us, but let's keep a special focus on our new guest host who's in for Dave today. What Adam would need to do if he and his family got caught in a 4.5 or higher.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. So yeah, we treat every earthquake the same. If we feel the ground shaking and we know there's an earthquake, we need to take the protective action. Wherever you are, right here, right now, drop, cover, and hold on. Get underneath a desk, table, a chair, hold on to the legs of that furniture, and keep that cover overhead until the shaking stops. And that cover overhead is what protects us from falling objects that Debbie just mentioned. Things off bookshelves or, pictures and things on the wall, things off the ceiling like light fixtures and those types of things. We have that cover overhead. If we don't have a piece of furniture nearby, just kneel on the floor up against a wall that doesn't have any glass overhead, no pictures, mirrors, windows that could break and shatter and fall on us and cut us, and just stay there until the shaking stops. In an earthquake, don't run out of a building, don't run into a building. You just drop, cover, and hold on wherever you're at. That's when things can fall off buildings like bricks and chimneys and porches and things that, again, can cause injury and death. If you're driving, stay in the car. Just try to pull over. Try not to stop on a bridge or under an overpass or underneath power lines or big trees. And even these small earthquakes are good reminders to remember, of that protective action.
Well, I was just thinking about this because it's when the earthquake hit that we felt on the west side of Salt Lake County, I have never felt an earthquake in my entire life. And it was like all of a sudden we were reminded of, like, what are we supposed to do? And as a parent, we had 3 young kids. And so my wife was hysterical. I don't think she's listening, but she was hysterical. And I said, get the baby. I'm going to go downstairs and get the other 2. And then she looked at me and said, you get the baby. I'm going to go get the other 2. And I was like, what? We in that moment were caught so off guard that we didn't know what to do. And so I think with like these Cedar City folks, what a good reminder, like, that we have just this little rumble that doesn't do a ton of damage, but that can wake us up. And like, we're having you on the show to talk about it. And maybe, hopefully, how do we get the citizens of Utah to kind of take this more seriously, or at least think about it a little more often? We just moved. What are we going to do? What's our new emergency plan?
That's great. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. I mean, being aware of the threats and risks that we face on a daily basis, hopefully can increase that desire to be prepared for those things. And earthquake is our biggest risk for widespread disaster and damage in Utah. The Wasatch Fault along, the Salt Lake and the valleys here in the northern end of the state. That's going to cause the biggest amount of injury and death and disruption to infrastructure, et cetera. We need to be prepared for that. And they happen every day. We average about 1,200 earthquakes every year. Most of them are just so small that we don't feel them. We're out in the middle of rural areas. But, and occasionally they're big enough to feel. And the big one like Magna, it triggered a whole bunch of aftershocks as well. And aftershocks are just more earthquakes, typically smaller than the initial quake, but the protective action is still the same: drop, cover, and hold on. This is a great time to review your family disaster plans, disaster supply kits. Go to beready.utah.gov for tons of preparedness information, and continue to listen to our great partners at KSL.
That's right.
That have taken on the Be Ready mantle.
I love it. Wade Matthews, before we let you hang up, I want to remind Adam, don't put your kids in a doorway, right?
Absolutely. We don't teach doorways anymore.
Oh, I knew his eyeballs lit up. Okay, quickly, 30 seconds. Tell him why no doorways during earthquakes, Wade.
Yep. They can knock you out of the door frame if you're not wedged in there tightly. They can smash fingers, and it's just not the best thing anymore. So we've gone away from that and gone to desk, tables, and chairs or just up against the wall without glass.
And hold on.
That and the food pyramid. I was just fed lies as a kid.
Wade, thank you so much. Love having you on the air with us. Wade Matthews with Utah Division of Emergency Management and the Be Ready Utah program, reminding us on the heels of this earthquake light down in the Cedar City area, 4.5. I mean, it doesn't. I love what he said in the beginning of this, Adam, and that is, it doesn't matter. Don't try to measure the force of the earthquake when it's happening. Like, this isn't going to be that big of a deal.
Too late.
Just drop, cover, hold on. Do not run to a doorway. That's something I learned hosting
Oh,
this
yeah.
show. I
It's
didn't know
crazy.
hosting this show. Wade told us something. I think I was trained to do that. Also, you said if you just moved. Here's a great thing to think about. Don't put heavy objects over your child's bed.
Yeah. Oh, spot on. And secure. We learned that really quickly. Secure all of your bookshelves. You do it for your kids in their rooms so they don't topple over. Do it throughout your entire house.
I also got some, I don't know, museum putty. I got some museum putty for like $5. It's literally like sticky stuff.
Okay.
And after I talked to Wade one day on the air, I ordered some off Amazon for $5, and you just put it on the bottom of all of your belonging, and it just keeps it locked sort of in
They're
place.
not going to sway. They're not going to. Okay.
I don't know how it would do in a really super, rough earthquake, but it's enough. It's enough. So little tricks we've learned. Boyd is joining the conversation next. He's going to talk about President Biden's plans, what he plans to do between now and Inauguration Day in January.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. One person is dead after police say a dump truck ran into a bicyclist at 12th Street and Wall Avenue in Ogden this morning. Ogden Police Lieutenant Will Farr says the man on the bike was in a crosswalk when the truck tried to turn right onto 12th Street.
The male in his mid-50s driving the dump truck didn't notice a bicycle crossing through the intersection and struck the bicyclist.
Farr says the victim was in his mid-30s. We've confirmed the driver of the Ace Recycling and Disposal truck stayed on the scene, cooperated with police. The company says they have no comment at this time since it's an open investigation. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Firefighters making progress on containing the huge park fire burning near Chico, California. It's covered about 360,000 acres. Cooler temperatures, lighter winds are helping. Containment now at 12%. Some evacuation orders in that area are being downgraded. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average slipping a little bit, down about 7 points, while the NASDAQ is up about 96 right now. And our KSL weather, looks like we're going to see sunshine, but also some smoke. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
In a world where ugly siding, leaky gutters, and inefficient windows are sapping homeowners of their will to live, one company must save us all. This year, join RGS Exteriors as it embarks on a mission to eliminate outdated home exteriors, one Utah home at a time. Every plank of old, ugly siding must be replaced. Every leaky gutter must be eradicated. Every inefficient, energy-sapping window must be vanquished. Once and for all. Begin your epic remodeling quest by calling RGS Exteriors for a free estimate. Discover how a heroic team of experts will save your siding, gutters, or windows for a fair, no-nonsense price. Call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or journey online to rgsexteriors.com. RGS Exteriors, coming soon to a home near you.
Need a ride? Call Utah Transit Authority's referral line. This dedicated phone number is a resource created specifically for individuals with disabilities, aging adults over the age of 60, and veterans who need temporary assistance finding specialized transportation solutions. Simply give us a call at 801-287-2870. Leave your name and phone number, and a UTA representative will get back to you soon. If you're facing ongoing day-to-day transportation challenges, the UTA referral line is here to help. From medical appointments to the grocery store, we're here to get you where you need to go. Please call 801-287-2870. This dedicated phone number is a resource created specifically for individuals with disabilities, aging adults over the age of 60, and veterans who need temporary assistance finding specialized transportation solutions. 801-287-2870. That's 801-287-2870.
Boyd Matheson.
Listening to Inside Sources is a little different from just reading the headlines because we're always going to get you into that think again moment. We have experts from around the country, across the world, and right here local to home that'll help us dive in and get past just the hype, the fluff, the fake fights, and the false choice so we can get into the news to help you connect the dots and make the news make sense.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
Actually, it's Michelle Dan. We do have good speeds now if you're making your way southbound I-15 from the North Interchange into downtown, but we do have a new situation. A fire is affecting the roadway. This is SR 248. This is the road that goes toward Camas. This is between Jordanelle Reservoir and Main Street, Camas. Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
And wildfire smoke from California will be drifting through the Wasatch Front, dropping our air quality into the yellow and even the orange range. Highs in the mid-90s until Friday when we get back to 100. Right now, 88 degrees and sunny. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Duajanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Dave and Duajanovic have inside sources.
Well, President Biden, we know, dropped out of the race for president. But he still has a few months left to do some work. And it looks like he is attempting to make the public aware he's still working because he just dropped an op-ed in the Washington Post. Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. Boyd Matheson joining us in just a few moments. One of the things he talks about in this op-ed, Adam, and we talked about it earlier in the show, is 18-year term limits for justices on the Supreme Court.
When they do it for Senate, that's when I'll be really excited. We have everybody playing by these rules. Presidents have 2 terms, and we've determined that maybe they will have too much power. And is that the same? Are we equating these same things on the Supreme Court?
You and I both, our takes earlier, Boyd, when at the beginning of the show when we were talking about the 18 years, both Adam and I felt the same. It was just odd. I don't know how I feel about 18 years. I think you sort of thought that too, Adam, right?
Yeah, I thought the 18 years was a weird number. We had some callers call in that added some really great context, saying that allows every president to appoint maybe 2 a term or something like that, or 1 a term.
But I think the question is, will he even be able to get anything like that done at all within the next few months?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. It's definitely more a talking point than anything. It'll be far more activity than actual advancement of it. But it is an issue that a lot of people do care about, and particularly on the Democratic side. Again, part of what President Biden has to do now, he is a lame duck president, but part of what he has to do is rally his party. And one of the ways he's going to rally his party is by these kinds of actions and say, okay, you don't like the makeup of the 6-3 conservative court, so let's go there. And some of the decisions that have come out. So it's a very easy talking point for the president. And he's been one, this is important too, he's been the one on the Democratic side dragging his feet on any kind of reform to the Supreme Court or to the filibuster in the Senate.
Right.
I mean, he's very much a traditionalist that way. And so this is a little bit of new ground for him. He has always said, even when he was running for president, said, no, you don't change the makeup of the court. Don't do that. So it's interesting that he's doing it now. Obviously, he's got to have a few things going down the pike. I think the things we have to watch for is, does this gain any traction as a political issue? Because the House is clearly not going to pass anything. There's no way it'll get through the Senate before November. And so there's those kind of talking points. But there's other things that the president can do to be relevant, and one of them should make all of us nervous in the state of Utah, and that is national monuments. And I think we should be watching here in the state for those kinds of things, use of the Antiquities Act, because we've seen that under President Clinton, President Obama, that late in their terms, using that executive order and pen becomes the popular way to stay relevant and keep doing things.
Well, is there going to be a lot of coordination with the Kamala Harris campaign, with the Biden administration? Are they going to be coordinating talking points and op-eds as a way for her to be able to go out and say, I will champion these ideas while the Republicans have to play defense.
Yeah, exactly. And that will be the case. I mean, it'll be very much a coordination in terms of what the president can do from the Rose Garden and do in his official capacity now, because he doesn't have to worry about the political side right now. So that gives him an advantage to do that. So it'll be interesting. And the thing that will be really fascinating will be, now that the vice president is in control of the campaign apparatus, how well will they work with the administration? Now, there's always some tension between the VP's office and the president's office in terms of who's getting attention, who's doing what. You didn't coordinate with us. You're doing your own thing. So there's always a tension there. And now the roles are reversed, because it's going to be heavy-duty all politics from now to the first Tuesday in November. And is that going to create friction between the Biden administration, which Kamala Harris is also a part of, and the Harris campaign? Because they're going to have some things that are not going to be aligned that will be in their interest.
Talking to Boyd Matheson right now about what President Biden's role will be. Will he be able to get anything accomplished in the next few months before he leaves office officially in January? One of the other things he mentions in the op-ed, Boyd, is the binding code of conduct for the United States Supreme Court that would require justices to disclose gifts, which Adam and I were talking about. We touched on a little bit earlier. It's like, why is that? Why does it need to be a binding code of conduct? I mean, it's something that somebody should just do because that's the right thing to do.
I just feel like judges in the state, of Utah, judges are so confined. I mean, they can't do anything that even reeks of political anything.
Yeah.
They can't accept any gifts at all, zero. And I think most judges would say that's probably a good thing. We don't want to have the appearance of impropriety here. And the Supreme Court has look, both sides, like the Republicans and the Democrat appointees, they're taking Ketanji Brown took $2,500 tickets to a Beyonce concert. We talked about the opera gown.
Ruth Bader
Ginsburg
disclosed. I think she amended her disclosures. This is years ago for an opera outfit. Do you know anything about the opera outfit? I'm just curious.
And do you have an opera outfit, Boyd?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
She must have really liked the opera. I was like, that's
she and the other justice, whose name I'm spacing,
Elena.
No. They used to go to the opera together.
They were best friends, the Republican, and now I'm blanking on his name as well.
Oh, okay.
Now we've all had a brain freeze.
When we turn D2 into game show, we'll get it right. Somebody text us at 57500 and let us know what we're thinking of right now. So again, it's just more potential campaign rhetoric to talk, because I would think along the campaign trail, this would be really popular stuff to talk about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because usually the Supreme Court doesn't release any statements. They don't come out and
they're
try
not
to
a political
defend.
body. They
They're
don't
not.
have to.
Yeah.
But so you're not at risk as a presidential candidate of having the Supreme Court stage a news conference, and you just start talking about things that generally the public leans into, the idea of term limits, and. I think most people would think, you probably shouldn't take a fancy trip somewhere if you're a seated justice.
Yeah, and so they're
Antonin Scalia, by the way.
Scalia,
thank you.
Sorry.
They are really easy applause lines on the campaign trail. And then they're very, very hard to actually govern with and get done. And so I think you'll hear a lot more about that. The thing that worries me most is that we have already over-politicized the court because Congress has continued to abdicate power to the executive branch. The executive branch is all too happy to take it. Doesn't matter if it's Democrats or Republicans. And then as soon as they do something by executive order, then somebody files a lawsuit and it ends up in the Supreme Court. And that's why. And so I think some of these things, the 18-year term limit, so that then every president will basically get to do two people, then that becomes even more political. It becomes much more of a political appointee.
Well, and what happens if somebody dies unexpectedly or decides to retire?
Do you recalibrate?
Does some president get three? I mean,
and that's exactly the point, Deb. That even if you put these term limits on, it doesn't guarantee that someone's not going to die or retire of their own volition. I know that's a radical thing these days, but those things will happen. And so, yeah, we're going to have a 6-3 liberal court at some point. We'll have a 6-4. You know, you have all the different combinations, and it's designed to ebb and flow, and it's supposed to work out that way. But the problem is we so politicize everything, and that our response to something is not to win the argument. Our response is to file a lawsuit. And Republicans have been horrible at this. They have resulted as, we'll just file a lawsuit. It's like, you can do that. I actually said in 2016, a lot of people, more than any other election, people voted for president based on the Supreme Court in 2016.
Yeah.
When you asked, exit polling showed number one reason they were casting a vote for someone was, I'm justifying my vote for the Supreme Court.
And we had a vacancy on the court at the time.
Exactly.
That Senate Republicans refused to fill, and that was a big talking point. Is it interesting, Boyd? Just as we close here, I think it's interesting that the President of the United States is coming out with this op-ed at a time where, like, I'm going to take the student loan forgiveness example, where the Republicans filed a lawsuit and they said, no, President Biden, you can't use this act to forgive student loans. And he responded, I'm not going to let the Supreme Court stop me. Yeah. I'm going to do it myself. Is that type of concerning? Is there any type of hypocrisy here?
Plenty. Plenty. And it's interesting to me that we continue to get to that space. And we've seen it with presidents on both sides. I'm going to do it anyway, and then I'll do it the court. And then if the court says I can't do it, and it doesn't matter the makeup of it. And the interesting thing is for President Biden, on a lot of the student loan stuff, it hasn't been 6-3 or 5-4. It's been overwhelming. Both sides of the political spectrum, so to speak, on the court say, no, you can't do that constitutionally. Sorry, I don't care. Sorry, you can't do that. And so,
man, he's trying, though.
Yeah, and the presidents will continue to try.
He's trying.
The executive branch is always going to be the branch that's going to try to assert the most power. And Congress seems to be willing to just abdicate all their power these days so they don't have to be responsible or accountable for anything.
Oh, Boyd, thank you so much. All right. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
It's a big start to Monday. Boyd Matheson, Inside Sources, 1 to 3 today and every day right here on KSL News Radio. Straight ahead, let's bring in your frequent co-host, Adam, of KSL at Night, Greg Skordas, our legal analyst, because there was something else that President Biden dropped when he talked about in his op-ed, which is he's calling for a constitutional amendment called the No One is Above the Law Amendment. Guess what that's all about? We'll talk about it next.
Dave and Duajanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
I'm Dave Noriega, and I lost 57 pounds in just 2 months with Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Hey, listen, we've all tried to lose weight before, and it can be incredibly discouraging. Let me tell you about Salt Lake City Fat Loss. With this program, they told me we have the secret to lose up to a pound of fat a day. And I thought, wow, that would be unbelievable, but it also sounds a little optimistic. Sure enough, in the first 3 weeks, I lost 25 pounds. Over 2 months, I ended up losing 57 pounds. I loved getting on the scale. How often can you say that? I loved getting on the scale every single day to see the progress I was making, and I did it without injections, without surgery. Check out Salt Lake City Fat Loss. You can go to their website, slcfatloss.com. If you use my name, Dave Noriega, you're going to get an extra $200 off the program. Just go to slcfatloss.com.
Now that Utah has scored the 2034 games,
we're back, baby. The Olympics are coming back to Utah. Thank you.
Congratulations. The Paris Olympics seem a little closer to home.
Dozens of Olympic athletes have ties to Utah.
Get full coverage on the 33rd Summer Olympiad, mornings and afternoons. Paris 2024 on KSL News Radio.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted it close to town, with a picture window overlooking a yard. And you found it. Now, when you sit down to dinner, you've got front row seats too. Your neighbor's daily pickleball game. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
Gotta change my oil.
How about Valvoline Restore and Protect? It restores and protects your engine to run like new.
Get in the zone. It restores your engine to, like, factory clean?
And protects.
Get in the zone. So Valvoline Restore and Protect restores and protects.
Now you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for $37.99.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Dave and Duajanovic.
What our listeners need to know is what's going on behind the scenes. We hold weekly meetings on how to do our jobs as talk show hosts, as journalists, better than we did them yesterday.
There's some very conservative voices. There's some very liberal voices. But there is space for both. And we're not at each other's throats. We're not yelling at each other. We're having a discussion.
Listen for Dave and Duajanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a wildfire is affecting the highway between Camas and Jordanelle Reservoir. Second, wind and heat today mean red flag fire warnings across much of the state. Third, President Biden wants to see term limits and new ethical standards for the U.S. Supreme Court. Right now, 88 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Duajanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Duajanovic.
There was a lot going on with President Biden's. It was kind of a short op-ed, but he said a lot in it. And one of the things we haven't talked about yet, we're going to talk about it just a second with Greg Skordas, our legal analyst, is this what he calls he's calling for a constitutional amendment called the No One is Above the Law Amendment. Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. Let me just give you a little more of this nugget here. He says it would make it clear that there is no immunity for crimes a former president committed while in office.
Okay, this gets really interesting, and I love that we have Greg Skordas on because it's not good that I get to co-host with him so much because now I just can text him and call him about every legal question that I have. And so coming out with this, I think, and I'm Greg, I'm interested to get your perspective here, but it's interesting that he just says that no one is above the law, that any crime you committed while you're president is completely unacceptable. And it seems to me that that's what the Supreme Court said, that if you commit an actual crime while the president of the United States, you can be prosecuted for that. But if you act as the president doing a presidential duty, you cannot be prosecuted for that. So I think there's like some nuance here that President Biden is intentionally skipping over because I think it makes for awesome politics. Am I wrong on that, Greg?
Well, I think you're a little bit wrong, Adam. And
all right, so that was Greg Skordas.
Thanks for joining us, Greg. Okay, go ahead.
But what's happening here is that our former President Trump is under indictment in 4 jurisdictions, 3 now. He's convicted in 1. And the Supreme Court has said, and they've effectively, with all respect to Adam, gutted at least 2 of the cases because they did involve acts that may have occurred or did occur while he was president. Now, when you're not president, you don't have immunity. When you're a citizen like the rest of us are, you have limited immunity that only applies in very, very limited circumstances. And I think what Biden is saying is that should apply to everyone, and no person should be above the law, even if you are president of the United States. And what he's doing, I think, is really putting himself out a little bit, because you could imagine if Trump is elected president, he will have the Justice Department coming down on President Biden for everything. So I think it's a bold move on President Biden's part to say, I'm not going to be above the law either. And when I'm no longer in office anymore, bring it on. So, yeah, it would require a constitutional amendment, and it's significantly different, in my opinion, Adam, than what the Supreme Court said in its recent ruling, granting a pretty broad level of immunity to what the president does while he's in office.
I just haven't heard, and perhaps that's because we have had just an onslaught of news regarding not only the Democratic adjustment in the campaign with now Vice President Kamala Harris saying, and being the presumptive nominee, saying she's running for president. We've also had an assassination attempt on former President Trump's life, and I'm just reading now on CNN. They did a lower crawl there on the screen that says that Trump has agreed to a victim interview, because he was a victim. So he will be doing an interview as to what happened during those moments. But I just haven't heard a lot about the Supreme Court decision, and maybe it's the news cycle, but I don't know what the general feel would be among Americans for a no one is above the law amendment. Like, who? That just seems like, right? What's your take on that? That's such a heavy lift, Greg, to get something like this through, and it does seem like to be the 11th hour of Biden's presidency.
No, and I agree 100%. I mean, there's three parts to what he said, which is the constitutional amendment, no one is above the law, term limits for the Supreme Court of 18 years, and a binding code of conduct. So I mean, what he's asking is something that's virtually impossible, because a constitutional amendment requires that 2/3 of each house approve it, which is never going to happen since neither party occupies 2/3 of the House. And it requires 3/4 of the states to ratify it. So I think it's bold on President Biden to say this. I think it took a lot of courage to say that. But I also think he recognizes that there's virtually no chance of doing that. But I think what he's saying is, come on, I dare you. If the public is upset at the high level of immunity that the president has, and apparently he believes they are, and the public isn't crazy about what the Supreme Court granted, the immunity for former President Trump, then hey, let's do something about it. And I think he's sort of challenging not only both houses, the House and the Senate, but the public too. Let's ratify it. Let's go to the states and have the people decide on this and vote on it.
Well, so it seems to me that if you think he kind of recognizes that, hey, look, we don't have a great chance of this happening. As we go forward, does this make for great television? Is this just a great political talking point? Is this, hey, Kamala, I'm gonna throw this out there and you just run with this, and we're gonna make Republicans defend this over and over and over again.
No, I agree. I think that's what's going to happen. If you recall, after the Dobbs decision, Adam, President Biden also said at that time, they'd overturned Roe versus Wade. He says, we're going to do something about that. We're going to go to Congress. We're going to go and we're going to change the law. And it was great for television. It was great for the media, but nothing happened. And in fact, that hasn't changed at all, except that individual states are taking their crack at it. So, no, I think he's trying to take the high road, or at least appear to be taking the high road. But I don't even think that the next president, whoever it is, whether it's Harris or Trump, is going to have a lot of appetite to enact these kind of pretty sweeping reforms at the Supreme Court. I mean, I think the public likes them and may think that they make sense. But, boy, there's just not a lot of appetite in Congress to spend a month debating something like this with so much else going on.
Greg, in just the short time we have just another second. Where do you see? Is this the last we're going to hear from President Biden on this subject, or are we going to keep hearing more from him?
Oh, I think now that he's a lame duck, we're going to start hearing a lot from him on this and a lot of other issues. He can write whatever he wants now and say, hey, I'm throwing this out there. Let's do something about it. He's in a great position to do that.
And as you point out, Adam, perhaps laying the groundwork for Kamala Harris to take these issues and run with them on the campaign trail. Greg Skordas, our legal analyst, joining us live on the air to talk about President Biden's call for a constitutional amendment. No one is above the law amendment. It's got a goofy title. It's right to the point. It does not look like it has the legs that it would need to get through all of the hoops it would have to jump through to become a constitutional amendment.
Yeah, we always hear that, there's 99 days until the election, and we hear that that's not a whole lot of time and also all the time in the world for something to happen. But for something to pass Congress, I would bet that Congress can pass maybe one more bill until we get to January 3rd. And so something like this, don't see it happening.
Do you ever think, what a job?
What a job. They're going to have to work in September and get August and October off.
What a job. Did you see what happened last night at Harriman City Hall? I watched a video that was sent to us via email by a KSL5 television reporter, Garna Mejia. And Harriman City Hall, look, there were so many people there, Adam, that I actually mistook it when I opened up the video that I thought this was the mall in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
There were thousands and thousands of people at Harriman City Hall last night. I'm like, why are they there? Well, it has to do with the election in Venezuela. That's next.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. A new wildfire burning near Camas, said to be potentially threatening some structures. This is on Highway 248 between Camas and Jordanelle Reservoir. Officials haven't said what type of structures are threatened. Fire is affecting the roadway, but traffic has been getting through. Police say a man in his mid-30s died after he was hit by a dump truck while riding his bike in Ogden. This happened just before 6:30 this morning. Ogden Police Lieutenant Will Farr says they collided at the intersection of 12th Street and Wall Avenue.
There was a dump truck that had been traveling north on Wall, and then he turned east to go onto 12th Street.
Farr says it appears the driver of the truck didn't notice the man in time before hitting him. He did stay on the scene and cooperated. Police are still working to contact the victim's family. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Biden calling for term limits for Supreme Court justices. In an op-ed published today, he said they should retire after 18 years. He's also calling for new ethical standards to keep them from accepting expensive gifts. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down just a bit, while the NASDAQ is up 46 points right now. And our KSL weather looks like we'll get sunshine today, but we also have wildfire smoke. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
That precious cool air inside your house shouldn't be seeping out through old drafty windows, but if it does, get stylish new windows and frames at factory direct pricing from Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Advanced Window Products has been building windows here in Salt Lake City for 38 years, but even if you don't need windows, they can give your interior a fresh new look with blinds, shades, and shutters from Graber. They offer custom crafted window treatments featuring the trendiest designs, premium materials, materials, and quality without compromise. Advanced Windows offers start-to-finish service with shorter lead times so you get your custom blinds, shades, and shutters sooner. Call them for a free in-home consultation with their designers. It's a no-pressure experience, and if you need new windows, $2,500 off on 10 windows or more, or if you need window treatments, it's Advanced Window Products. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindowsusa.com.
This radio commercial was made to convince you to stop speeding. We can't use siren sound effects on the radio, so we'll use other equally jarring sound effects to get your attention, like telling you that whether you drive a little over the speed limit or a lot, you can crash just the same. You could hurt yourself, or worse, others.
I'm at the scene of the collision.
And the damage you cause will be beyond repair. See? We didn't have to use crash or siren sounds after all. Speeding catches up with you. Brought to you by NHTSA.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them.
With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise.
No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures.
It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
Summer is upon us, and do you know what your lawn wants? It wants Revive Organic Soil Treatment upon it. A Revive treatment with fertilization, aeration, and good watering is the key to building stronger roots for a healthy, lush green lawn all summer. Revive fertilizes and moves water and nutrients deeper into the soil. You'll see the difference. Revive is surefire defense against summer drought and skyrocketing water costs. Make the most of your watering with Revive Organic Soil Treatment. Apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment today. It works.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Michelle Rowe.
Well, again, we do have this fire affecting the roadway. This is SR 248 making your way into the Camas Valley. It's about halfway between Jordanelle Reservoir and the crest into the Camas Valley. It is just to the north side of the road. Right now, the wind is blowing to the north, so it's not causing visibility issues, but you do need to use caution in the area. Michelle Rowan, the KSL Traffic Center.
Wildfire smoke from California will be drifting through the Wasatch Front, dropping our air quality into the yellow and even the orange range. Highs in the mid-90s until Friday when we get back to 100. And right now we're at 90 degrees with sunshine. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Duajanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
The scene at Harriman City Hall was something I cannot remember the last time I have seen a gathering this size in Utah. To me, when I opened the video that was sent to our email here at Broadcast House, I literally thought this was something that was like going on in Washington, D.C. It's a sea of thousands of people at Harriman City Hall on the south end of Salt Lake County. Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. I showed you the video.
I hadn't seen it at all.
What was your first reaction?
I got goosebumps. Like it was extremely loud. Everyone was really hyped, and I mean the speakers were all in Spanish, so I didn't know that it was in Harriman when you showed me until you told me, and turns out it was for the elections that are being held in Venezuela. They wanted to show solidarity.
Yeah, and it looks like at this point, although there's a lot of controversy, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has been declared the winner. It is a disputed election. You had mentioned to me before when we were talking about this in the break that there were some issues with voting.
Yeah, I mean, what I saw, I mean, this is just from checking X and some of the news sites before we came on the air, and it looks like there was lots of protests outside polling places because a lot of folks were not being allowed to vote. The election was called very early before polls closed, that Maduro was declared the winner, and the White House has said that they have serious concerns about how this election was run. This is a socialist government. This is not a very democratic place. It used to be, and until Chavez took over, and now Maduro, and we have just like kind of eroded democracy in that country. It's extremely poor now. Inflation is through the roof, and so it looks like our friends in Harriman.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Venezuelan nationals in Harriman.
It's incredible.
And they're just trying to show solidarity with their brothers and sisters in Venezuela who are casting their votes.
Carlos Moreno is a Republican candidate for Salt Lake County Council. He's also a Venezuelan American. He was there last night, and you put us in touch with him today, Adam.
Carlos, thanks so much for being on the show.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Now, I want to hear a little bit of your background. Are you a Venezuelan asylee?
Yes, I became a political asylee here in the United States, and in 2022, I became U.S. citizen.
Congratulations.
That is a big deal. Tell us what a political asylee is coming from Venezuela. What type of hardships were you put through? What type of political persecution was there for you to get your citizenship here?
Well, every day, every political asylee has their own story, but you need to you cannot come back to Venezuela for any reason. They threat you by death or your family, and that's why you need to escape from that kind of regime, for this kind of socialist regime, to the United States or other countries. We have more than 8 million Venezuelans, refugees around the world. Most of them are in Latin America, like Peru, Chile, Argentina, and those countries who are closer to to Venezuela. But it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare being a Venezuelan today, honestly, and that's why you see a lot of people seeking political asylum or being a refugee in other countries.
Take us to Harriman City Hall last night, Carlos. How many people were there, and what was that like, and what was the purpose?
That was a watch party. People in Harriman. We got around 4,000 Venezuelans or 5,000 Venezuelans around. We were expecting 800 people yesterday. But people showing up because, many Venezuelans are living, especially in Harriman. The Venezuelan community, most of the Venezuelan community is in that city. They took that city as a home. And that was a watch party to follow up the elections. Many people like me was pretty skeptical, but other many were very. They had hope that we can have a change of regimes, or we can have a democracy finally after 25 years.
So, tell me your thoughts on the outcome of the election. Do you think it was this election was done on the up and up? Was it a professional election? Was it contested? Are there issues with it? Do you know of people that family or friends that you're still close to down in Venezuela that weren't allowed to vote? Is there anything nefarious or corrupt that happened with this election?
It's a kind of election that you have in North Korea or Cuba. The regime always win, no matter what. Imagine all the streets, all the voting centers, full of people talking about the opposition leader, talking about many things, and you have the people who support the regime just hide. It's pretty obvious, like Senator Marcos Rubio said. It's the most ridiculous thing that we saw yesterday. We won that election. The Venezuelan people won that election. We don't want any more socialism. But that's the problem with this kind of regime. When they are in power, it's so difficult to win elections because they take over all the government. I'm talking especially about the Venezuelan regime. They took over all the government, all the institutions, everything. And it's really hard to win elections in that kind of system when everything is corrupt and everything is almost impossible to win elections to these guys.
It's hard to even fathom. Carlos Moreno, a Republican candidate for the Salt Lake County Council in District 2, also a Venezuelan American. He was there last night at Harriman City Hall, where thousands of people
the election
gathered for what was to be a watch party of the elections in Venezuela, where the current president, probably by no surprise, was declared the winner. It is a disputed election. And so, Carlos, I'm going to jump to a conclusion here that the majority of the people and just the energy that I saw last night at Harriman City were hoping and praying and sending vibes to family members in Venezuela to get Maduro out.
Yes, and we want to show also to the people in the United States, especially the people in Utah, how dangerous is having socialism as a political ideology in the government. That's why 2 years ago we passed a bill called Current Resolution condemning the undemocratic government of Venezuela that was sponsored by Jordan Tucher and Senator Lincoln Fillmore, that we strongly talked to the legislator about the danger of socialism, and we passed this resolution to educate and inform to the general community in Utah what's happening in Venezuela and how dangerous socialism, adopting socialism in the United States. The Venezuelan people right now is very. It's a mix of feelings right now what we have, but we need to still going till the end.
Yeah, Carlos.
We need to win this.
Carlos, well said. Thanks so much for being on the show. It was fantastic to get your insight of everything that was happening in Harriman City and in Venezuela.
And congratulations on all of the support that the community saw last night at Harriman City. It floored me when I saw that video. You know, on a Sunday, getting a few hundred people out is one thing, but there were thousands and thousands of people. And I wondered why Harriman City Hall. But now I know why, because, Carlos was saying how they've adopted Harriman City.
How cool that.
I know. It's awesome. And truly the support and, it didn't go the way they wanted to. Perhaps they weren't surprised by that, but we'll continue to follow that story and see if there's any new developments. Another story we've been following closely. Can't think of a better person to have in today to talk about it straight ahead is the Malloy-Jenkins race and the congressional race for Congressional District 2. And it's 214 votes separate the two of them. Celeste Malloy up by 214 votes, but Colby Jenkins has until when to call for a recount, Adam?
Has until tonight at 5.
Ooh.
We're a couple hours away.
Dave and Duajanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
100, 200, 300.
What you're hearing is a special offer being prepared just for you.
800, 900, 1000.
And it's from Brighton Bank. So let me explain. For a limited time, Brighton Bank's Cash Reward Extravaganza is offering up to $2,000 in cash rewards on qualifying deposits. So make a qualifying deposit at Brighton Bank and receive a cash reward. Build your financial future and receive up to $2,000 in cash rewards with a qualifying deposit at Brighton Bank. Reach your financial goals quicker with Brighton Bank. Well, you get the idea. With the Cash Reward Extravaganza, Brighton Bank continues a tradition of developing relationships and building communities for over 45 years.
1,800, 1,900, 2,000.
What kind of Cash Reward Extravaganza will you qualify for? Learn more online at BrightonBank.com. BrightonBank.com. Brighton Bank is FDIC insured. Some terms and conditions may apply. Program ends July 31st. Get details from your Brighton Bank professional.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
What makes you so different than the rest of us?
We ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Tell me more.
Our investment counselors focus on service over sales, prioritizing clients' needs.
How do you make money?
We don't sell any commission-based products. We have a simple management fee based on the value of our client's portfolio. So we do better when our clients do better.
What about client portfolios?
We get to know each client, their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more, and then we tailor a portfolio based on their specific goals and needs.
Your clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority. Our goal is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Wow, maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PCLaptops.com. I've been advertising with KSL Radio for decades now, and radio works. With all the clutter on social media, radio cuts through all the noise and gets directly into your customer's brain. If you're a small business and want to reach the local audience here in Salt Lake City, KSL Radio is the way to go.
If you'd like to know more about the benefits of advertising with KSL News Radio, email Stephanie Palmer at spalmer@ksl.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Mill Creek City Lifestyle is a community-focused multimedia magazine that aims to be a conduit for the people, places, and things that make the Mill Creek area special. Owner and publisher Julie Janke joins us with more.
At Mill Creek City Lifestyle, we believe that stories are the common thread that unite us. They engage us through emotions and connect us to each other. And that's why our goal is to tell the story of our community as it grows and evolves. Our multimedia magazine is not just a printed publication, but an effective digital platform and social media outlet to showcase your business's story in an authentic way. Each issue of Mill Creek City Lifestyle has a different editorial theme, and layered along the pages are unique features that showcase the cool things happening in our community. The beautifully designed magazine is meant to be a coffee table piece created from the common thread of lifestyle, outdoor to indoor. So if your business is seeking to expand your clientele, visit citylifestyle.com/Mill Creek to let us tell your story. It's not just a magazine. It's a movement.
Whether you're a local business owner, community member, or visitor looking to learn more about the area, Mill Creek City Lifestyle has something for you. Learn more at their website. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a wildfire burning near Camas is threatening some structures and affecting the highway to Jordanelle Reservoir. Second, a man on a bicycle was hit and killed by a dump truck in Ogden this morning. Third, President Biden says 18 years is long enough to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. Right now, 90 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to David Duajanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Duajanovic, Utah's top political story. Special coverage with Dave and Duajanovic.
Well, who is the winner in the 2nd Congressional District? Is it Celeste Malloy? Does she retain her seat in the House? Is it that Colby Jenkins is going to call for a recount? Now, when we're talking about what the deadline is to call for a recount, what you said was it is today at
5 p.m. So this is the reason we're talking about this. I know we've talked a lot about this election. And really, we talk about it because we don't have a ton of close elections. It's usually one candidate kind of runs away with it. And that's not the case in the 2nd Congressional District. Chris Stewart, as you remember, held the seat for a number of years, and he resigned to kind of do his own thing and as well as spend more time at home with his ailing wife. And his general counsel was Celeste Malloy. She decided, and I remember making this joke to her when we were meeting with Congressman Stewart's office one time, and I said, hey, when you run for this seat, I'm all in. I would love to help out any way I can. And she goes, okay. And I thought I was playing a joke and she maybe wasn't getting it. And then she ran. And so She ran, and then she had a very tough convention race against the former Speaker of the House and some other big names in politics. And then she won the general election. And about a week before she was sworn in, Colby Jenkins from Southern Utah, he filed paperwork to run the next year. So because it was a special election, Celeste had to run in January and against Colby Jenkins. And so she had to run all over again. So she only got to be in office for just a couple of months. And then we went through another very contested convention race. And so each candidate got above 40%. So both were placed on the ballot. Neither got signatures. So everyone, made it through the convention system. And then Mike Lee, right before the convention, came in and endorsed Colby Jenkins. It was kind of this big establishment endorsement for Colby Jenkins, and that was really tough because Celeste was seen as like the rural conservative candidate, and now that was being flipped on its head. And so we had this crazy race with a ton of money poured into it, and Celeste Malloy ended up winning by 214 votes. Not a lot of votes at all. And there was a lot of discrepancy because a lot of folks in rural Utah, when they send in their ballot the day before, which is what we train them to do, the day before the election, they needed to be postmarked the day before the election. Well, in southern Utah, they get stamped or postmarked in Las Vegas and then come all the way back. So they're traveling hundreds of miles away. And so there were hundreds of votes that were not counted because the votes technically were against the law.
Because they didn't get postmarked.
They didn't have that postmark on it. So there's a couple ways that they could have avoided that. You can actually go into a post office and get a postmark, or you can go down to any city in your county and you can put your ballot in a drop box. So for these folks, that did not happen. So there was a ton of controversy, and it took 2 weeks, I believe, for the Board of Canvass to meet in each county. And then 2 weeks after that, the state Board of Canvass met, and they actually certify the election. So by state law, Colby Jenkins or any challenger, if they're within 0.25%, which this is, that's the state law for a recount, the loser must request that recount. And so Colby Jenkins has not done that. He has filed a lawsuit to have those postmarked ballots count. So we're waiting to hear the results, and that will have that work its way through the system. But he has until tonight to request that recount. I am told by sources around or close to that campaign that they are considering contesting much more of the election than that, and that they're waiting to see how everything plays out. The recount is going to be interesting, which he will request. That will happen by 5 p.m. tonight. All they're going to do is recount the exact same ballots that they have already counted. So will that change a lot? Probably not. So that's why the Jenkins campaign is relying on these other lawsuits and other means to kind of change the outcome of that election.
Well, okay. Wow. You know a lot. Thanks for filling us in. First of all, Adam Gardner in today for Dave Noriega. Adam is a political insider. You might recognize him, his voice on our show, because he called in frequently when you were at the Republican National Convention just about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And also host of KSL at Night quite frequently. So you can hear him here from 7 to 9 many nights of the week. So the difference in the votes right now is like Malloy's at 50.1%.
You can't get much closer than that.
And Jenkins is at 49.90%, like 49.9. So yeah, they are right there. That is within the realm of a recount request.
Right.
Little surprised he's waited to this long, but you're more of on the strategy side of things. Was he waiting for the lawsuits to resolve? Or?
I think so. I think I also think there's a lot that goes into it. You want to decide what you do first, whether you file a lawsuit and then request the recount, do it in reverse. I think they're just being very strategic on how they go about this. You know, we've had 2 recounts in Utah politics that I remember Representative Ellison down in southern Utah, the challenger requested a recount. Ellison had won, and he ended up going up by 7 votes. Mel Brown and Logan Wild in Morgan County, there was a recount requested there. Logan Wild had won by 5. He went up 3 more votes, and Mel Brown went up 2 more votes. And so it's they don't change a lot. 214, even though it's over a number of counties, that's going to be really hard to make up.
It sounds close, but what you're saying is it might not be close enough.
It sounds like it. They're recounting the exact same ballots that they've already counted.
So really, the thing that's really hanging out there then is what's decided on these votes, these ballots that meandered their way into Vegas and then got.
Yeah, judges are going to be very important in this election to decide if we're going to add more votes to the and this is after the Board of Canvassers has already certified the election. So what happens? Are we going to include new votes into the category or into this election? We're in uncharted territory here. I'm all for it working its way through the system, but it's going to be interesting to see where we play out.
And are we supposed to know that when you drop your ballot off in a mailbox that it wanders all over?
We have not. The state has not done a great job of telling folks what really happens to their ballot.
Yeah, walk it in and get it stamped.
Use those drop boxes, people.
There you go. There's the drop box too. But I mean, who knew that? Just because you drop it in a blue box doesn't mean that it's going to get stamped right there. It might have to travel. I suppose if you live in a very rural Utah, you probably maybe figured that out.
Everything takes so long to get anywhere in rural Utah.
Work ahead, I guess. Work ahead. Maria Chaleos up next. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining us.
Hey, it was my
today.
pleasure.
It's
Thanks, Debbie.
Fun. She's got a lot more to talk about regarding the Utah State University and the recent firings there. So Maria's going to fill us in on what's going on with that.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News.